Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Welcome to Consider Islam. Live with Kenny Bomer, an affiliate and founder of the Consider This TV network. Any views, actions, or comments made by panelists during this broadcast do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of CTTV network hosts or affiliates. This channel and its affiliates do not claim any right over any of the graphics, images, or songs used in this video that are protected under copyright by other individuals or organizations. All rights are reserved to the respective copyright owners. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. The works on this channel are protected under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, DMCA, of 1998, which amended the existing U.S. copyright law to address important parts of the relationship between copyright and the Internet. Now here is your host, Kenny Bomer.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon everyone who's watching. This is Consider Islam Live with Kenny Bomer, and I do bear witness there's no God other than Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, is the final servant and the seal of all prophets. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Okay, so today we had a show earlier today regarding the Consider This TV water well projects, and the sixth well was commissioned today. We have a seventh well on the way. So I'm very excited about that. So be sure to tune into that live stream that we broadcast earlier today if you haven't seen that yet. Today we're going to be talking about the significance of beards in Islam and why I have chosen to talk about this today, which is a bit interesting within itself based on some interaction that took place this past week. So we're going to get into that. But I want to first and foremost say that and ask Allah to forgive me for any mistakes. If I make any mistakes along the way, surely they're my mistakes. And that if any goodness comes from my efforts and my intentions to discuss this topic, that surely all praise goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and ask him to accept my efforts and my intentions in doing this. So let me get into what inspired me to talk about this today. I'm going to try to tread delicately on the issue because it's could get. Let me just go into it. So there's a Muslim brother that he's relatively new to Islam, and he made a post on Twitter last week, or whenever it was sometime last week, and he was somewhat. I'm actually gonna show what he says here. Let me go ahead and show what he says. That way we can put it all in proper context. And this is not an attack against this individual. This is something for us to learn by on multiple levels, and inshallah, that's what we'll be able to achieve today. I want to say assalamu alaikum to everyone in the chat. If you can hear me clearly in the chat, please let me know. If you can't hear me clearly, please let me know that. But may Allah bless you for being here. I did want to say Ramadan Mubarak. It's still a little bit early, but Ramadan will be here in a few hours, inshallah. The first official day of fasting will be tomorrow. So if you can hear me just fine, please let me know. And we'll proceed. Okay, so let me get into what was said in this brother's post on Twitter, and if I can find it, and we'll get into the context of all of this and what, why I'm discussing this today. Okay, so on Twitter, he said the following. Let me remove this banner just real quick. He says, and I quote, this is him saying this. He says, I have Muslims telling me that growing the beard is to differentiate between men and women. And then he goes on to say, it is primarily to differentiate between believers and disbelievers. Okay, so I'm going to read again what he said on Twitter. He says, I have Muslims telling me that growing the beard is to differentiate between men and women. And he says in his summary, it is primarily to differentiate between believers and disbelievers. Okay, so a couple of things come to mind when I first seen this. Let me remove this. Okay, a couple of things come to mind whenever I seen this. For one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself differentiates between men and women by the fact that men can grow beards and women generally do not grow beards. They might have a little bit of facial hair, but they don't grow beards like men grow beards. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself has differentiated the male and the female by the mere fact that men can grow a beard and women cannot grow a beard. Okay, so when I first initially seen his post, it seemed to be one that was trying to question the Muslims that had told him that the purpose of the beard was to differentiate between males and females. Now, we live in modern times where this transgender movement is very prominent, and males dressing in women as women and women dressing as men has gone on since the beginning of time, I'm sure. It was certainly going on during the time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The polytheists, the fire worshippers, and the disbelievers, they all were, not all of them, but there were groups among them that were quote unquote cross-dressing, and the men carrying themselves very effeminate and so forth. Not so much in the reverse fashion, where women were being masculine, but the men were very, not all the men, so keep it in context. Some of the men were effeminate, just like in modern times. Some of the men are effeminate and they like to dress in women's clothing and so forth. Okay, so, and I'm not trying to attack any group, but so again, the first thing that come to mind is, for one, why is the brother criticizing these Muslims that told him that Allah has established the fact that through the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that men are to grow their beards? It is part of the Sunnah. It is part of it's compulsory. It's fard. It means it's something that is highly recommended for men to do. Now, so what's the reason behind that? Why would the Prophet, peace be upon him, even need to discuss the matter? There's reasons for that. We're going to talk about some hadith that are going to indicate and point to some things. And again, who has established the differentiation between men and women better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Obviously, so men growing a beard and a woman not being able to grow a full beard is a means to differentiate males and females. So first and foremost, that's a pretty big indicator that what the Muslim brothers had told him about the purpose of the beard is to differentiate between males and females. What they stated was correct. And I very politely responded, and I told him that what they have told you is correct. It is to differentiate between males and females. And he wanted to argue about it. Now, he's a relatively new Muslim. He used to be I don't want to give any indication about who he is, because it's not important. What's important is that this understanding is conveyed. And I did try to invite him on to have just a peaceful discussion, but again, he began to attack me personally on a personal level and trying to undermine my knowledge and trying to, and people, listen, there's people far more knowledgeable than me. Allahu Akbar. I mean, it's, but I tend not to speak about something unless I know about it. And that's all I was trying to do is convey to him, because he's gone, but he accepted Islam from Christianity. Then he went back to Christianity. Then before that, he went from being a Sunni Muslim to Shia, and then he went to, he's going back to Christianity. Now he's come back to Islam. In what capacity, I'm not sure. But he's, this is not a personal attack against him, but what I was trying to let the brother know is that what the Muslims, whoever they were, who told him that the purpose of the beard is to differentiate between the male and the female, is correct. Now, in saying that, it also differentiates between the believers and the disbelievers. Well, who are the disbelievers? The disbelievers would be those people who are males trying to claim that they've changed their gender and now that they're females, or males in the past, in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, who would dress like women, dress effeminately, carry themselves effeminately. Also, the fire worshippers, the polytheists, the pagans, who they would shave their beard, but let their mustache grow long. That's silly. It's ridiculous to begin with. And, so the Prophet, peace be upon him, was telling the Muslims to differentiate yourselves from the polytheists, the fire worshippers, the pagans, the people who dress effeminately, feminine, the men who dress effeminate. Muslim brothers, grow your beard so that you don't look anything. There's no confusion about who you are versus who they are. Now, with that being said, I know many Muslim brothers who don't have a beard. Now, that's between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it is highly recommended that Muslims grow a beard for multiple reasons. There's some debate amongst scholars about the about the beard issue and so forth. But let's clarify something. So we know, based on what he was trying to state, I'm going to post it again. He's saying that this is his words. He says that it's primarily to differentiate between believers and disbelievers. Okay, now think about that for a moment. Now, he's correct in some regard. Okay, it is to differentiate between believers and disbelievers. But which believers and disbelievers is it referring to? It's talking about those ones who were effeminate, who were dressing like women. Just like in modern times, people were walking around dressing like women, claiming that they're a woman, but they have testicles. They were born as men, but they're dressing like women. Well, they would be categorized as disbelievers. So yes, it is to differentiate believers from disbelievers, and the masculine from those who are effeminate, who should not be carrying themselves as effeminate because they have testosterone pumping through their bodies. They are not women. They are men, and they should carry themselves as men. The beard is a means to solidify that and make sure that the man knows that he's supposed to look like a man and the woman is supposed to look like a woman. Now, with that being said, we know that there's Muslims and non-Muslims who have beards and who don't have beards. So how can you better differentiate yourselves? So that means, in saying that, so he's saying that it's meant to differentiate. He said it's primarily to differentiate believers from disbelievers. Okay. Yes, that's true. But now, if you look at it in this manner, where you know that there are disbelievers who have beards, there are disbelievers who do not have beards. Okay. So how do you know? There's Muslims who have beards, there's Muslims who do not have beards. So how do you know? This tells the person with common sense that the primary issue that we're dealing with is the man is supposed to look like a man, the woman is supposed to look like a woman. Therefore, Muslim brothers, grow your beards, do not carry yourselves effeminately. And I've got hadith that we're going to discuss that are going to prove my point about this. And I try to invite this brother on who was very rude to me, very insulting to me, attacking the whole network and just extremely rude. And I kept saying, look, if you'd like to come on and have a discussion about it, come and have a discussion about it. He's been on Twitter making all kind of posts, I'm sure, been in Clubhouse making all kind of comments and so forth. I've heard all about these things. Listen, I don't care. My objective is to strive in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the best of my ability and try to explain things in a manner in which people can understand them and relate to what's being stated and not make things too difficult. Islam is the middle path. Allah says in the Quran not to not go to extremes in your religion. That means don't go to any extreme in regards to any particular thing that's said. Don't take it to the extreme, and also don't be too extreme on the other end, being too lackadaisical where you're not you're not fulfilling what you're supposed to be fulfilling your obligations and so forth. So don't go to extremes on either side. Stay in the middle path, and if you stay in the middle path, you're safe. So instead of that, he wants to argue and try to undermine me, belittle me, and so forth. That's fine. Alhamdulillah. You owe me on the day of judgment. Nevertheless, so again, if you factor in the disbelievers are certainly those people who are males or females and trying to claim they're a different gender, or dressing as dressing in women's clothing and so forth. Men dressing in women's clothing, women dressing in men's clothing, and so forth. Okay, so they would be categorized as disbelievers if they're doing that, because they, that's denying the very makeup, their very design that Allah created them to be either male or female. And if they're trying to carry themselves in their lives as though there's something that they're actually not, then that is totally against Islam. That's a very insulting to our Creator, and of course that would categorize them as kuffar. They're the ones who are rejecting the truth, therefore they're disbelievers. So that's the category of people that we're talking about. Okay, and so this is real simple. But either way, I asked him a question along the way. I said, well, doesn't the beard do both? It differentiates the believers from the disbelievers, and it differentiates the male from the female. So what's the problem? Why be rude? Why be rude about it? Why argue about it? Why initially make a post trying to somewhat mock or ridicule the other Muslims who had told him the exact same thing that I did? I was just trying to go into a little more detail. I didn't bring up the hadith themselves, because he began to be so rude and insulting that it's like, okay, well, let's have a discussion about it. So if you think that I'm wrong, then let's have a discussion about it, and I'll bring up the hadith. That way we can have a peaceful discussion, and you'll understand that what I'm saying and what the people before me had told you is actually correct. It is to differentiate males from the females. Okay. So with that said, you see my beard is a little bit shorter than usual. The recommended scholarly consensus is that the Muslim men should grow their beard to at least a fist length, right? And as of last week, before I came back from Israel, my beard was much longer, but one morning I was running late, and I bought some Israeli clippers over there, and I had like 10 minutes before I needed to go where I needed to go, and it was just real scruffy at that time, and I cut it too short. But nevertheless, I still have to cut it off in a couple of weeks, because I have I'm an inspector with the American Petroleum Institute, and with my job, I have to, for medical reasons, I have to be able to don a respirator sometimes, and so therefore, it's part of the safety rules that you cannot enter the facility unless you are clean shaven. It's their rules and so forth. It's a medical issue. It's a safety issue, and so in a couple of weeks, I have to shave my beard off completely, and I'm not happy about it. I want a full beard. I prefer a full beard, but with my occupation, the way I make my living, that's just the reality that I'm dealing with. But however, so some people would ridicule that and say, "Oh, you should keep your beard no matter what." Okay, well, yes, if you, again, you're not supposed to go to extremes in your religion. So yes, keep your beard. Now factor in that there's many Muslims out there that do not have beards at all. They don't have beards at all. Okay. Does that make them not a Muslim? No. It's the intentions of one's heart, and sincerity of one's heart, and how do they carry themselves? I'm sure there's some very pious Muslims out there that do not have a beard, that are more have a better relationship with Allah than someone who's got a full beard, looks like the typical Muslim that you would expect, has a full beard, but may not be as close to Allah as the one who doesn't have a beard, and vice versa for that matter. So I don't get me confused with what I'm saying. It is highly recommended. It's part of the sunnah to grow your beard, which is why I have a beard, and I wish my beard was still longer. I wish I did not have to shave it off periodically, but it's a fact of life that I have to deal with. But in saying that, that's why I want to the very first hadith that I want to mention, so that people realize that I'm not being a hypocrite in my situation. I have legitimate situation here. So Al-Azhari, may Allah be pleased with him, says that the correct position in a hadith, it says, and it's also from the book Shu'ab al-Iman, and it says that according to Al-Azhari, may Allah be pleased with him, says that the correct position in the Shafi madhab is that to shave the beard without a valid medical reason is haram. Again, without a valid medical reason. So me having to shave my beard off in particular is for a valid medical reason. It's for a safety issue, so that if I'm in a dangerous environment and I have to put on the gas mask, that it will have the proper seal. If you have a beard, it won't seal properly, and I could actually die there. So if I have a valid medical reason that the beard must come off, then it's permissible, and surely Allah knows my conditions and my situation, and it is what it is. So also it says there's a similar verdict of prohibition has been issued by Zarakshi Bahaki in his book Shu'ab al-Iman, the one that I just mentioned a moment ago, and by his teacher Kaiful Shashi in Muhaqsin Ashariya, and it's again, they mention the valid medical reason. Unless you have a valid medical reason, you're supposed to maintain the beard. Okay. Matter of fact, before I get into any further detail about this, I have posted a link that you can find on whichever channel you're watching from, and on the Facebook channels. Matter of fact, I believe it was an article written by Sheikh Uthman ibn Farouk, and I'm going to be reading about 9 or 10 hadith from that writing, ones that I was somewhat familiar with. He went into a lot more detail. The brother's very knowledgeable, but may Allah bless him for his efforts and his intentions. Give him sadaqah for me being able to utilize what he's already put together. I was going to have to go find him elsewhere, but I seen that he had already wrote an article about this a while back, and so I'm getting some of this from there. But I did post the link, and matter of fact, I'll post the link again in the chat for you. Beards in Islam, Uthman ibn Farouk. You can read that in your own time if you'd like. I'm going to be reading about 9 or 10 hadith from there. But I just want to clarify that, yes, the beard, for one, the other thing that the brother that I mentioned earlier, he started trying to present it as though I was arguing against beards. No, like really trying to like misrepresent everything that I'd said. I never said that Muslims aren't supposed to have beards, and I never said that. I was trying to explain to him why the Prophet, peace be upon him, would have said what he said, and based on the hadith. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so according to Abu Abdullah Muhammad al-Jibali, if I'm saying that right, he says all the ulama of Salaf, including the 4 imams, agreed that shaving the beard is haram, is prohibited. They considered shaving it as an impermissible mutilation. This is very important. They considered shaving it an impermissible mutilation, as has been reported about Umar bin Abdul Aziz. They used to consider the person who shaved his beard effeminate. Okay, I'm going to read this again. They considered shaving it as an impermissible mutilation, as has been reported about Umar bin Abdul Aziz. They used to consider the person who shaved his beard effeminate. Many of them would not accept his witness or allow him to lead the prayers. Now, lo and behold, they referred to it as a mutilation. Now, what are these transgender people doing nowadays? They're mutilating their bodies, trying to make themselves a male or a female, doing body implant, implants into their body, and taking medically induced hormones or testosterone and so forth that have changed their appearance. They're actually, chopping part of their bodies off, removing their breasts, removing their genitals, removing their testicles, and so forth, removing their penis in some instances. And so this falls in line exactly with exactly what the issue is. According to the four imams, it's agreed that shaving the beard is haram, prohibited. They considered shaving it impermissible and as a mutilation. It's a mutilation, as has been reported about Umar bin Abdulaziz. They used to consider this person who shaved his beard effeminate. So he was obviously dressing like a woman. He was shaving his beard and he was carrying himself like a woman, or very effeminate. Okay, that's the first one that we could have went through these hadith with that brother and could have, everyone learned from it. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so according to Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal and Imam Abu Hanifa and Athari, may Allah be pleased with them all, they all agreed that if the beard is removed, it's an act of mutilation once again. Lo and behold, here it is, this word mutilation again. And again, in current times, who's mutilating their bodies? The so-called quote-unquote transgender people. Actually, there's no such thing as a transgender person. The prefix trans means to change, and no one can actually change their gender. So there's really no such thing, I'm sorry to say, as a transgender person, because genders cannot change. And that's an impossibility. And it's very disrespectful to our Creator to even make such a claim. So, but this group of people are mutilating themselves in order to try to appear as a gender that they can never be, because DNA does not change. DNA does not change. And so, but again, according to this hadith, it says it's all agreed that that if the beard is removed, it is an act of mutilation. If someone was to remove another man's beard by force, he would have to pay the full diya or blood money for this cruel act, just as if he had removed an eye or a limb of the victim. This is based upon Sahih Hadith from Imam Bukhari, may Allah be pleased with them, who stated that and forbade robbing and taking property by force, and he forbade mutilation. Again, they're categorizing removal of the beard for these particular groups of people as a form of mutilation, because the person who wants to dress like a woman is mutilating themselves in every regard. They're taking hormones, they're getting breast implants, they're chopping off their genitals, and they're mutilating themselves in order to try to transition, quote unquote, into something that they can never be. If you take that offensive, truth isn't always comfortable. Okay, so I'm not purposely trying to offend anyone. I'm just telling you that truth isn't always comfortable. If someone is having to mutilate themselves to claim that they're a gender that their DNA tells them that they can never be, then you're doing just that. You're mutilating yourself. And a lot of these people, they make these changes and they wish that they could go back to their regular gender that they were born. Actually, they never changed the gender, but they could go back and mutilations they've done to themselves, they wind up regretting it. What it boils down to is these people are unhappy with themselves. They wanted to change their conditions, their situation. They think that changing into another gender is going to make them happy. They realize that they do it, and they made a worse mistake by even thinking that they could accomplish such a task. They're still not happy, and they want to go back, and they wish they could just start all over again. Well, it's too late. You've already mutilated yourself. Okay? If you were a man, you would have started growing your beard. Maybe you would have felt a little more manly. If you're thinking that you're a woman, well, grow your beard. Maybe you might feel more manly. Your appearance will change because you appear more manly. It takes a growing a beard that makes you look a bit older. Matter of fact, my beard, getting the gray in it and so forth. If I shave it off, I look a lot younger. But, alhamdulillah, it is what it is. So to the people who may be listening now, or if you come across someone that falls into this category, tell them, hey, look, if you're questioning your gender, grow your beard. Maybe then once you start, maybe you get different reactions from people if that's your concern. Maybe you might look upon yourself differently, say, you know what, I'm a man. My mind was playing tricks on me. It's called gender dysphoria is what it's called. It's gender dysphoria. It's actual mental. It's a mental health issue. I always want to say mental illness. I'm trying to not to say mental illness, but it's a mental health issue, and it's called gender dysphoria. And listen, grow your beard. This is the solution. Islam is the solution. If you think that you're a woman but you have testicles, please excuse my language, but if you think you're a woman, you have testicles, well, let's do this. Let's grow your beard out and see if you feel like you're a woman then, when you're looking like the man that you were born to be. And therefore, what does that do? Growing the beard differentiates the male from the female. Even in the mind of the one who's mentally got a mental health problem, it's differentiating in the mind male from female. You're going to see yourself differently. Grow your beard. Okay? So they say, and Imam Ahmed bin Hanbal and Imam Abu Hanifa agreed this includes a man's beard, referring to someone mutilating themselves, that it's forbidden. Do not mutilate yourselves, and that includes the beard. Ibn Hazm, may Allah be pleased with him, said that all scholars of Islam have agreed that shaving of the beard is a form of mutilation. Again, another hadith where they mention what? Mutilation. What is it talking about? It's talking about this transgender, quote unquote transgender. I can't stand that word. That issue in modern times, this still applies in modern times. Allahu Akbar. Okay, Ibn Hazm, he says that all scholars of Islam have agreed that shaving of the beard is a form of mutilation which is forbidden. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, no change let there be in the calcula. I don't know, maybe they misspelled this right here. Anyways, the creation of Allah, calcula. That's right. Creation of Allah, that is the straight religion, but most men know not. Okay, what does it say again? Not change, let there be no change in the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why I take this issue so serious about this quote unquote transgender issue. It angers me. May Allah give me sabr and help me better deal with these types of issues when they come about, and when I'm writing about these issues as well. Give me patience in dealing with it, because to me it's so offensive in that, how dare you think that you can change your gender? The gender, you couldn't change you can't change who your parents were. You can't change what race you are. So what in the world makes you think that you have the right to claim that you're a gender that you cannot be? But because of this mental health issue, because of gender dysphoria, people think that they can do so, and they're trying to change Allah's creation that they'll never be able to accomplish. You'll never be able to accomplish. I've been studying, looking up on some stuff on this, come across this individual named Buck Angel. Looks like a man. There's no doubt about it. Looks like a very masculine man with tattoos and a full beard, a woman. But it took testosterone in order for that to take place. But this person will openly say that she is still a female. Looks like a male, but will say that biologically she's still a female and still has female, a vagina. Please forgive me for, I'm just trying to explain this. We're adults, as an adult show, but still has a vagina but looks like a man. Okay, and so that's only accomplished by the fact that she mutilated her body, she removed her breast, she took testosterone and so forth, but she still has a monthly cycle. She could still get pregnant. She's still a woman. You have not changed anything. You cannot change the creation of Allah to make the claim that you can. You're trying to make yourself your own God. That's committing shirk. And what's the solution? Grow your beard. If you're a man, you think you're a woman, grow your beard out. Right? If you're a woman who thinks you might be a man, well, listen, put on some high heels, or I'm not saying you don't even have to wear high heels. Do some womanly things. You could. I mean, come on. If you know good and well inside that you internally that you're still what you are, your biology doesn't change, your chromosomes don't change. So how did you change? You didn't change. You put on a costume You changed your outward appearance, but internally you're still the same thing. Okay, so another hadith. Shaykhul Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah be pleased with him, stated that shaving the beard is haram. And it goes on to say that the Quran, the Sunnah, the Ijma, or the scholarly consensus, for people who don't know what that means, all indicate that we must differ from the kuffar in all aspects and not imitate them, because imitating them on the outside will make us imitate them in their bad deeds and habits, and even in beliefs, which will result in befriending them in our hearts, just as loving them in our hearts will lead to imitating them on the outside. Now, I have to stop there, because when the Muslims, it is your obligation, it is our obligation to always speak the truth and always stand up for the truth. Always, and surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes no mistakes. Okay. Muslim, and you have befriended, someone who has this gender dysphoria. That's great. You can be their friends and so forth. But once you begin imitating them, once you begin promoting their lifestyle, once you begin creating a bond with them that's to a point that you are actually speaking against the very creation of Allah, you're playing a very, very dangerous game. You're playing a very, very dangerous game. And I know some people who are Muslims that are doing this. I know them personally. And if you hear me speaking right now, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you better stop and think about what you're doing, because it's one thing to be decent to people and not oppress people and so forth. And of course not. I'll be the first to stand up if I seen a group of transgender people or one person, transgender person. Actually, there's no transgender people, but if I seen someone who suffers from this mental health issue and someone was trying to harm them or making fun of them and so forth, I would run to their defense. But I would run to their defense maintaining the truth, in that if it was a man that was claiming that he was a woman, I would never call him a he. A she. I would refer to him as brother. I'm not going to play make believe, but with his make believe. I'm not going to let someone else's mental health issue undermine my sanity and force me to refer to someone as a gender that they're not. I would not do that, but I would defend them against harm. But by maintaining the truth, I'm also trying to defend them against harming themselves mentally, emotionally, and physically by mutilating themselves and emotionally going through the whole idea that they think they're something that they're not, and all those things. So it's a lot to talk about, too much to get into right now. But also, Al-Tirmidhi reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that he is not one of us who imitates people other than us. Do not imitate the Jews and the Christians. And according to another version, says that whoever imitates a people is one of them. And that's reported by Imam Ahmad. Now, again, Muslims, I'm sure there's probably some Muslims out there that are going through this issue, right? And it's a mental health issue, and I encourage people who are going through something like that to seek counseling. Be patient. If you're a Muslim brother and you think that you might be a female, grow your beard. I'm going to repeat: grow your beard. Grow your beard, okay, and seek counseling. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide you. And if you do those things, you don't just give in to your weakness and your self-inclinations, your own desires and so forth, and you're patient, and you know that biology doesn't lie, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation, there can be no lie in it. Okay, we're going to talk about hermaphrodites here in a moment, but nevertheless, be patient, grow your beard, and seek counseling. But Imam Ibn Abd al-Bar said that in Al-Tamheed, said that it is forbidden to shave the beard, and no one does this except men who are effeminate. Okay? So just what I told the brother, that he jumped all over me and cussed me out literally with cuss words through text on Twitter and so forth. and making posts about me and trying to get other people on the bandwagon to mock Kenny Bomer and so forth. I don't care, man. That's not. Listen, I strive for the cause of Allah. I don't care. You can't phase me. I'm gonna keep doing what I do for the sake of Allah. And so, but again, just what I told him. I told him I had hadith that I can prove to him that what I was saying was correct if he'd like to have a peaceful conversation. And he never wanted to do that. Instead, he blocked me after he insulted me repeatedly, even though I was saying, brother, I don't know why you're being rude. That's just, I'm just trying to explain this to you and so forth. But nevertheless, Imam Ibn Abd al-Bar said in Al-Tamhid, and I quote, "It is forbidden to shave the beard, and no one does this except men who are effeminate," meaning those who imitate women. It says, i.e., those who imitate women. Okay? That's exactly what I told him. So the people who told him before I did that it's to differentiate males from female, they were correct. And I was trying to defend those brothers, and I did it politely. And I was just trying to let him know that, listen, what they've told you is correct. It is to differentiate males from females. Man, it didn't work out. I tried, but it didn't work out. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, in describing the Prophet, peace be upon him, the Prophet had a very thick beard, peace be upon him, reported by Muslim from Jabir, and also in the same hadith says that it is not permitted to remove any part of the beard because of the general meaning of the text, which forbid doing so. Okay, and you can find more about that in Fatwa al-Lajna al-Da'amiyah 5133, and you can find all of that in the link that I shared for today's show. Also, another hadith, Sheikh al-Albani stated that it is not permissible for Muslims to remove any hair from the beard except what the lawgiver has allowed. It is reported from one of the companions who narrated the hadith, leave the beard and trim the mustaches. Remember what I mentioned earlier about the fire worshippers, the polytheists, pagans. They would shave the beard, but let the mustache just grow long, which is silly. It looks ridiculous. Abdullah bin Umar stated they used to remove from, Abdullah bin Umar used to remove from his beard what was below a fistful. Apart from that, trimming the beard is against the sunnah. It says that he used to remove from his beard what was below a fistful. Remember earlier I said that, it's recommended to grow your beard to where you can have a fistful of it, but anything beyond the fist, you can trim that, right? And of course, my beard is short right now, but I've already mentioned there's medical reasons that I'll give a hadith that indicates that, but otherwise my beard would still be long, but for medical reasons, and it is what it is. We'll talk about that if we need to later. But of course, okay. So apart from that, trimming the beard is against the sunnah, whether or not the man's beard is pleasing to him or whether it is not pleasing to other or pleasing to. Apart from that, trimming the beard is against the sunnah, whether or not the man's beard is pleasing to him and whether or not it is pleasing to others. For all of Allah's creation is handsome, as in the Sahih Hadith, where the Prophet, peace be upon him, saw a man with a long waist shirt. He saw a man with a long waist shirt and ordered him to have his the lower portion of the shirt halfway up his shins. And the man gave the excuse that he had defected. So the Prophet ﷺ said, all of Allah's creation is handsome. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us to look the way we look, and we look the way we look for a reason. We're tested by how we look. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter if you're handsome and beautiful or according to the world, if you are whatever you look like, it doesn't matter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you to be just what you are, to look the way you look, and it is a test for you and for me as well. Okay, so so let me repeat this last bit. It says the Prophet, peace be upon him, said all of Allah's creation is handsome. Ahmed and others say that this phrase is actually of Quranic origin in Surah Sajda, chapter 32, verse 7. According to his wisdom, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has differentiated between men and women. Once again, lo and behold, in this explanation of this hadith, according to Allah's wisdom, Allah has differentiated between men and women, created man with a beard and created women without a beard. He did not do this without reason. Allahu Akbar. That's the very first thing that comes to my mind whenever I read this statement of this brother, quote unquote brother, who's been attacking me on elsewhere, when he said the following. What did he say? He said, I have Muslims telling me that growing the beard is to differentiate between men and women. And he says it's primarily to differentiate between believers and disbelievers. Now, he went on from there, and he's actually trying to criticize the people who told him that it's to differentiate between men and women. Well, they were correct, and I was trying to let him know that they were actually correct. I did it politely. It didn't matter. He was still rude. Maliki Fiqh in Kitabul Ibadah says to shave the beard is haram, and to trim it in such a manner that it changes one's natural or normal facial features is also haram. Now, who's doing this to change their facial features? The people within this transgender movement who are men that don't want to look like men, they want to look like women. So they're trying to change their facial features and everything else. So they shave their beards, maybe they get waxed or whatever they do, but they're trying to look like something that they cannot be. So they will be categorized as disbelievers. So yes, it's to differentiate believers from disbelievers, and also to differentiate men from women. That's the major issue, is differentiation between men and women. Okay. It's also quoted in Kitab al-Ibadah that without doubt, the four madhabs all agreed that the beard should be lengthened and that shaving it is haram. And that's from the book Kitab al-Ibadah. Hanafi Fiqh in Dur al-Muqtar says to trim the beard when it is less than a fifth's length, as done by some Western people and hermaphrodites, is not permissible in the opinion of all the jurists. To shave the beard is done by the Jews, the Hindus, and others is also not permissible. Okay. So the first mention of hermaphrodites. Now we know that there's some people out there who have physical defects in the genitalia, but their biology, their DNA, their chromosomes are well defined, and a person could have a mutilated genitalia as like any other deformity. Someone can have a deformed hand and have an extra finger or be missing a finger, but their DNA is still their DNA. A man is still a man, whether or not he has 6 fingers or 4 fingers, right? He's still a man. Well, if he had some, a combination of a vagina and a penis and so forth as his genitalia, well, that's a physical defect. That's an exterior issue. That's an exterior defect in his body. And this is not uncommon that people are born with deformities. It's a test for them, and it's a test for those who take care of them. And so, but their DNA is still, either male or female. It's not both. It cannot be both. It's either one or the other, despite what their outward appearance might look like as far as the genitalia goes. So hermaphrodite is a very touchy situation, and this type of people are may or may not have a legitimate reason. I'm sure every situation is a little bit different, but they may or may not have a right to say, I am carrying myself as a male or a female based on their genitalia. But listen, if that person who has a mutilated, it's not mutilated, but a disfigured genitalia is still having a menstrual cycle, well, that person's a female. And if that person can't get pregnant, by example, well, that person's most likely a male. The DNA is going to tell the story, regardless of the physical deformity, just like someone who might have a mutilated hand, or maybe they may not have a hand at all, but they're still either male or female. Okay. I'm not a doctor, but let's use common sense, and it goes a long way. Sheikh Ibn Abdul Bar, may Allah be pleased with him, said, and I quote, "It is forbidden to shave the beard. Only the effeminate do so." Well, here's this word effeminate again, because it's to distinguish male from female. And Umar bin al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, and Umar bin Abdul Aziz both did not accept the testimony of a person who shaved his beard, which I mentioned earlier about those two. And you can read more about that from Why a Muslim Must Grow His Beard by Sheikh Sami Strauch, if I'm saying that correctly. Imam Malik, may Allah be pleased with him, states Sheikh Ahmed Nafarawi Maliki in the commentary of Imam Abu Zaid's booklet states, and I quote, "To shave the beard is without doubt haram according to all imams." It is also mentioned in Tamheed, which is a commentary on Muwatta, that Sunan Imam Malik, may Allah be pleased with him, said that to shave the beard is haram, and that among males, the only ones to resort to this practice are the hermaphrodites. Okay? Now, and that's from the book Tamheed. So, again, that hermaphrodite issue is a little more complex, but I'm sure the DNA will speak for itself in most of those instances, just like anyone else with a physical exterior deformity. The DNA is not typically deformed. How could it be? Okay, so with that said, post the link in the chat because I'd like to get other people's feedback about this. And I see Brother C.L. Edwards, assalamu alaikum to him in the chat. Maybe he wants to join me on the panel. And anyone else who'd like to join me on the panel and have a decent, peaceful discussion, okay? Let's have a peaceful discussion so that we can all learn. If I've said anything wrong in presenting this information, may Allah forgive me if I've read something wrong or whatever. Please forgive me, but may Allah accept my efforts and my intentions. So I'm going to post the link in the chat, and you're welcome to come and join me. And maybe, inshallah, that the brother who was insulting me about this issue, maybe he might hear this in the future at some point, inshallah, and realize that he did an injustice to me, that he did indeed oppress me unnecessarily because what I've stated was accurate to him. I didn't go into the hadith because he was already insulting me. I was like, okay, well, let's have a discussion about it, and I'll produce the hadith there. And listen, neither here nor there. He had no right to disrespect me, and I was trying to defend the people who told him correctly to begin with that the hadith are meant to differentiate the males from the female. The purpose of the beard is to differentiate between the male and the female. So if you'd like to join the panel, feel free to do so. Feel free to do so. I'm going to be doing a show in the next few days. I know Ramadan starts tomorrow. I'll be fasting tomorrow. Actually have to go to a funeral tomorrow. And my father's funeral, as a matter of fact. It's a long story, but he passed away before I went to Israel. But I can't get into all the details about it. But nevertheless, his funeral, his service is tomorrow. And so I have to go to that, inshallah. But I'm going to be doing a show about this gender issue. Because I've seen a post recently where a toy was posted, a gender-neutral baby, and I don't want to get in all of it right now, but a gender-neutral baby with toy is being sold, but it says on the box, it says gender neutral. What does that mean? How can someone be gender neutral? That is to imply that they have no gender or that they're dual gender. And I know there's people who claim that they're binary or, they have dual genders and they call themselves it or they or them. Call a single person they or them. Anyways, we're going to talk about that issue as respectfully as possible, and but that's going to be coming up. It kind of coincides with this issue here, which is very interesting because it's right in the middle of this big. I'll be honest. I'll just be honest. I cannot stand the term transgender. Trans is a prefix which means to change. Genders don't change. A person cannot be born a male and then suddenly decide, today's Monday, I'm a male, but tomorrow, Tuesday, I'm a female. Yesterday I was a male on Monday and a female on Tuesday. Wednesday I might be an octopus. I don't know what I might be. No, I can't grow 4 more tentacles. I only have 4 limbs as a human being. I can't grow 4 more limbs, so I can't be an octopus. I can call myself an octopus all day, but can I actually grow more limbs to justify the idea that I want to self identify as an octopus? Of course not. Nor can the woman grow a penis who wants to self identify as a male. Can't do it. That's why the person that I mentioned earlier, Buck Angel, is still and will openly admit, as a matter of fact, I actually respect this person. I respect her for admitting that she's still a female, even though she looks like a male, really, really looks like a male, but still has a vagina. Because why? Because like I can't grow extra limbs to become an octopus, she can't grow a penis to become a male. She can't. She's not a male. Therefore, she has to admit, has no, if you're going to present yourself as a logical and reasonable person, you have to admit that you're still what your DNA admits that you are. And that's this person actually does this lady that looks like she does look like a man, but is bold enough, even attacked by this quote unquote transgender community for admitting that she's still biologically, she's still a female, that she has, she's a female, but she identifies herself as a male. And very interesting story. Very interesting story. It's actually a very small community of people that are affected by this, but we hear about it so often in the media. It's the shaitan. It's Iblis trying to discredit Allah in any way that he possibly can. A sworn enemy to mankind who's trying to mislead people, confuse people, and primarily the religious people. Because now if we speak out against, this lie and the idea that someone can quote unquote change their gender, which is an impossibility, but if we say that, now we're the bad guy. We've done something wrong because we're standing up and saying, no, the truth is the truth. Even if you don't like what's being stated, the truth is the truth. It may not be comfortable. The truth isn't always comfortable, but does biology and DNA actually change? No, it does not. It just does not. So why are you getting mad at me for just saying what the science says? Instead, you want me to say what someone who's got a mental health issue, you want me to go along with that and play charades with them and play make-believe with them. And, I don't know other way to put it. It's if they are pretending that there's something that they can never be, and they internally they know that they can't be, just like this Buck Angel person, she knows that she's not really a man. Okay, so inevitably she's put on a costume, and part of that costume is medication, a medical costume. Part of it is mutilation. Part of it is, well, she didn't get implants, but nevertheless, she. It's a medical costume, and with the testosterone and so forth, still putting on a costume, giving her the ability to grow a full. She's actually got a full beard, but she will admit that she's a woman. She's still a biological female. So that's the truth. I commend that person for having the courage to say that in modern times. I see Brother C.O. Edwards is backstage. Let me bring the brother on. Been a while since I've heard his voice. Brother C. Edwards, assalamu alaikum to you, brother. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam. How you been?
Oh, alhamdulillah. I've been good. Been extremely busy, but been good, man. Busy's not so bad sometimes. So been
Yeah,
doing all.
see, you've been a busy man.
Yeah, I've been busy, man. You been doing okay?
Yeah, I've been doing okay. Alhamdulillah.
Good. That's good to hear. So what do you think about this this issue that we're talking about today? What do you think about this?
Well, I mean, mashallah, I think it's very pertinent. We do know you don't even have to be Muslim to understand this, because you see it from the way that non-Muslims even portray a prophet. If you told somebody, draw a picture of a prophet, what would they draw? They would draw a man with a beard.
Yeah.
That's what a prophet. That's what a prophet looks like. So
Yeah.
Every single prophet and messenger, they know that they wore the beard as men. And this is whether it's Islam or Judaism or Christianity.
That's
They
right.
know this, and they know even from Christianity standpoint, they know that Jesus had a beard and his disciples had beards, peace be upon him. And they know the church fathers, they had beards, and the bishops and the popes, they all had beards up until modern times, when people started to be influenced by secularism.
Yeah.
And this is the steady erosion, the ideological invasion and erosion of people's morals, people's traditions, and people's natural understanding of how things should be. Men, if a man leaves himself alone, he grows a beard.
That's right.
In order to not have a beard, you have to purposely, put a razor to your face or some other object to your face to get rid of it. But naturally, men grow beards, and naturally, for the most part, women don't grow beards. Now, there's some exceptions to the rule, of course, but we're not talking about the exceptions. We're talking about the majority. So
Yeah.
So the presence of testosterone inside a man causes men to have hair on their face, and the absence of that chemical causes women not to have hair on their face. So this is something natural. Obviously, the Creator put this into place. Who else did it? Who else put it into place except the Creator?
That's
The
right.
Creator put it into place to make a distinction. Like, if the Creator wanted to, he didn't have to have men have beards or women not have beards, but he obviously did it for a demarcation.
Right. So isn't that, then logic dictates that's the primary reason why a man can grow a beard, is to distinguish the fact that he is a man and the woman is a woman. Do you agree with that? I mean, that's kind of obvious to my mind. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
I mean, it's like it's undisputed. It's otherwise there'd be no other reason for it. I mean, what other reason could there be for a man to be able to grow a beard than to distinguish the fact that he's a man, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being all knowing, there are going to be people in this world based on the evils of the shaitan and the iblis trying to confuse people and try to lead people astray, that there are going to be people in this world who are going to have this mental illness, whether or not it's an actual chemical imbalance within their minds, or it's something that they just want, for whatever perverted reason they want, but imagine, if we can imagine ourselves as a man for a moment who wants to be a female. As the brother just mentioned, if you don't shave your beard and you just don't do anything to try to remove it, you don't put any hair on your face or whatever, then your beard is going to grow. And so for that person who has the inclination to say, I feel like I'm a woman, well, grow your beard. Listen, man, you were a great physical example of the ability that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instilled in the given mankind the ability to do these miraculous things, not miraculous, but these great achievements as far as physical achievements. But now you're deciding that you're Caitlyn suddenly. Well, wait a minute, Bruce. How about How about let's counter that with stop shaving for a few months. Just don't shave. Don't shave for 6 months. Let your beard grow out. See how you feel then. Look at yourself a little bit differently. Go get some counseling. Go talk to someone. Analyze what it is that makes you feel this way. Is it something physical that's making you feel this way? Do you feel, by example, the pains of the menstrual cycle that are making you feel that way? Of course not. So what's making you feel that way? Nothing but your thoughts. So maybe go get some help for your thoughts, because you were competing as a very well-known, a very prosperous physical specimen of a male athlete during the Olympics in the 70s. So how is it that you are now deciding that you're a woman? Stop, let your beard grow, get some counseling, and maybe that might change, or you can, start chopping your body up and implanting this and implanting that and taking these drugs that they're more than happy to sell to you because it's a big business. So yeah, let's push that agenda. Let's get all these little kids confused about who they are as early as possible with these little gender neutral babies that we're selling at the Walmart and Toys R Us. If there's any Toys R Us that still exists, maybe not. But nevertheless, let's sell all this idea to the masses, and let's confuse all these little kids and that are being raised by parents who maybe, have their own issues, but they're raising their children to, there's people out there literally that are refusing to mark male or female or accept the idea that they're male or female, their child is being born as a male or female. They refer to them as them or they until the child is old enough in their minds to choose their own gender. Say what? What does this world come to when a human being resorts to that type of thinking? And how is the child not to be confused about who they are when you are giving them, you're asking them, I mean, how are they going about the process of letting the child decide if they're male or female? Or what are you asking them periodically? And if so, when do you ask them? You ask them when they're 6 months old, 1 year old, 2 years, 3 years, 5? When do you ask them, are you male or female yet? Do you know? I mean, imagine that. I'm going to let my baby, newborn baby, I'm not going to call it a male or a female. I'm going to call it a them or a they, and refuse to assign it a sign. It's ridiculous. Refuse to address them DNA traits. I'm not going to call them that. I instead want them to choose, and I'm going to aid them in being confused about that process because they're just a little baby is innocent, and they're just growing up being exposed to their environment, and they're being raised in an environment that is slowly and gradually moving towards saying, it's unjust and it's oppression against the baby to define the baby as a male or a female. That's ridiculous, man. And again, what age do you question them about what they are? Hey, little Johnny, or whatever the heck. What do you even name them? What do you name them? How do you even do that? How do they go about that? There's literally people doing this. I don't know what they name them, but what do you name them? I mean, I don't even know how you would even start that. But even beyond that, at what point do you say, "Hey, we need to go school shopping for you. It's time to start kindergarten. Do you want a dress? Do you want some pants like a boy? You want what? I mean, come on. How do you justify that? It's absolute insanity. It's debauchery, and it's just complete and utter nonsense, man.
This is the consequences of the fact that the secularists have control over the most powerful nations on earth. They have control of the most powerful militaries. They have control of the financial networks and the most powerful economies on earth. They create the curriculums. They dictate the standards for schooling across the world, and they control the media most of all. They control media and music, television, news. They control social media, so they can push these messages out to everyone all across the world and get
Man, they're
them to
doing it.
accept it. And it's just, this is the time we live in. We're getting close to the end,
Yeah.
and we're getting close to many of the things that the prophets and messengers, especially the last and final prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us and predicted for us and informed us. And holding on to your deen is like holding on to hot coals
Yeah.
today, and it's only going to get harder to do that as time goes by. And you just have to maintain. You have to be steadfast upon what you know from the Quran and Sunnah, what you know from common sense, what you know from your tradition. And no matter how much pressure someone puts on you, or no matter how many times you keep hearing over and over again that 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it really equals 85. It doesn't matter how many times somebody tells you that. You don't give in and say, you know what, you're right, it is 85. No, it's not 80. It's not 85. And just, if you have to die upon that, then that's what you die upon.
That's right.
You know,
I've been watching a couple of talk shows the last few days about this gender issue, and there's some of these people that are claiming there's 100 different genders and so forth.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I mean, come on, man. Listen, what kind of just utter nonsense is this? And if that's not the devil, I don't know what it could be. I mean, it's pure insanity where you're just changing or not changing, but trying to redefine the makeup of the human being on your own terms. And then if someone counters that, or doesn't fall into that mold of what they're trying to accomplish, then the person who speaks out against it or doesn't fall in line with it is somehow the evil one. Now they're the bad guy. So the good is now evil and the evil is now good. The evil being the idea that someone can redefine the very creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, that's evil beyond evil. And what is the shaitan trying to do? What is the devil, Satan, Iblis, what is he trying to do? He's trying to destroy anything that Allah creates. Allah creates, and Satan wants to come and he wants to destroy the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is the greatest creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it himself. He's the best of his creation is mankind. And so if we can destroy him internally in his thoughts and his mind through these whisperings, and the whisperings come in many different forms. It comes in his own thoughts. It comes in, visual stimulation. It comes in these repetitive things that are being broadcast over and over and over again in the world of media, where, like you mentioned, they're controlling manipulating the thoughts of mankind by what they choose to put in or keep out of the news broadcast. And they're pushing this agenda. They're making it more popular for someone to be able to say, I'm non-binary. I'm a them or a they. I don't recognize myself as being male or female. What on earth are you talking about? What are you? It's, if I call you a freak, then I'm wrong. I've oppressed you in some way. But what you're saying is placing you in the category of something freakish. If you're not a male or a female, but you look like the rest of us, you look like a male or a female, but you're not that, then what in the world's going on in this? What are you, a dog? What are you? What are you, a tree? What are you? Please tell me what you are, because this is a strange situation where you're refusing to recognize yourself as a male or a female. You don't want to recognize yourself as either one, or you're both. Well, how can you be both? Can you have a baby? Oh, no, you can't have a baby? Okay, then so that disqualifies you from being a woman, because you don't have a womb that allows you the opportunity to have a baby. You don't have a menstrual cycle either, right? No? Okay, well, great. Well, on the flip side, do you have testicles? No, you don't have testicles. Can you grow a beard? You can't grow a beard. Oh, not unless you go to the doctor to get testosterone injection. Okay, I see. So you need to be aided in that. So it's a part of the costume concept. And so, but me saying this and put it in these terms, I'm the bad guy. Okay, well, I guess I have to be the bad guy because I can't compromise. As a Muslim, we're not supposed to oppress anyone. We're not supposed to mock anyone. That's not the intention. But I feel it's an oppression against and a mockery against common sense and logic and reason and the very creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a great mockery that really ticks me off beyond words, to be honest. And I try to handle it, as it is. But I find it a great mockery and a very disrespectful and a great oppression of logic and reason and common sense for someone to insist that if you don't recognize a man who was born with testicles as a woman and call him a woman, that you're somehow the bad guy. Well, let's rock with it. I'll die a bad guy because I will never, this issue right here, Kenny Bowmer, I promise you, I will never give in to this issue right here because I find it so offensive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I can't stand it. I cannot stand it. And this is one I'm gonna keep fighting. I don't care who's on board with it or not. Muslims who jump on the bandwagon and because you know someone personally that you like and so forth, and you decide that you're going to call that man a female. You're going to call that man that you know is a man. I mean, you got an Adam's apple. He's every bit a man, but you're going to insist that person should be called a female, and you're a Muslim? Man, come on. And I'm wrong because I refuse to do so? Let's put that on the scales on the day of judgment. You tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that man that has testicles, that's actually a female. You argue with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about that, and then you come back to Kenny Bowmer on that day and talk to me later. Matter of fact, I'll remove myself from the discussion. You put yourself on the day of judgment. Imagine yourself on the day of judgment, standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you're going to tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Peter is Sally? I don't think so. You'll be utterly silent. You won't say a word, and you'll realize how ridiculous you were in this life in backing such a horrendous and a despicable debauchery and a lie from Iblis, the devil himself, Satan, Beelzebub, Lucifer, and it's an absolute lie, who promised to lie in wait for man on the straight path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to attack from before them and from behind them, from the right, from the left, and you will not find most of them thankful. You will not find most of them to be what? Obedient? Well, isn't the Muslim supposed to be the most obedient? But you're denying the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by telling the world that this human that you met, that you know, is really a gender that they can never be genetically and biologically. You're supporting that? I mean, come on, man. Come on. Let the polytheists do that. Let the Christians and all these people, let them jump on board with that and not the Muslims, man.
You know what? I've been reading a book. I would recommend it to you and anyone else. I'm only halfway through with it. It's called The Intellectual Invasion by Dr. Farouk Post.
Yeah, I'd like to read that.
Yeah, it's basically about this subject, and in a general sense about how these foreign intellectual ideas are weaponized and have been used against the Muslims, and they've invaded the Muslims not with arms and physical warfare, but with an ideological attack to cause doubts inside the Muslims and confusion inside the believers, so that the believers aren't clear on where they stand and where they should stand about these issues. And part of it is, as he points out in the book, is promoting so-called liberal Muslims, whether they call themselves liberal or not, and promoting these new brand of scholars who have been educated not through not in traditional ways or through Islamic universities, but instead learn Islam through Western universities.
Yeah.
And have this idea of modernizing Islam and upgrading and updating Islam for today's time, so to speak. And it's a very good book, and I'm still in the middle of reading it.
Brother, can you send me post the name of that book in the private chat, because I want to get that book for sure, inshallah.
I will.
Yeah,
definitely.
please post that in the chat.
It was hard for me to find the book. I found a PDF of it. I still want to give the brother some money, because this is intellectual work. I don't want to just take the PDF.
Yeah.
And, I still want to offer some type of donation to that brother or his organization, which I plan to do, inshallah. But I know some people who have the physical copy of the book itself.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to try to get my hands on that book as well, inshallah. But remember that even if you have the PDF, the brother's doing you some giving you some guidance through it, the brother's still going to get blessings on the Day of Judgment either way, inshallah. So may Allah bless the brother for his efforts and his intentions. Before I address Brother Katie Muslim, assalamu alaikum to you, I just want to mention something that's going on in the chat here for a moment from this videos one, this cross that I see here. Trying to make me out to be the bad guy, as is expected.
Well, the devil's going to show up.
Yeah, well, trying to claim that it's rage in my heart. My rage for what? Rage in my heart for the truth? No, it's not rage. I wouldn't define it as rage, but it is a very adamant stance against the oppression of truth that is established by our Creator. And as a Christian, you would think that you would be along the same lines with that, but
you're assuming that's a Christian.
Yeah, that's a Christian person that came to my previous stream. I'm sure I know this group that this person's coming from, but trying to make it as though you pulling out the whole walking God kind of love, for God is love and so forth. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's true. And but the thing is, if we compromise the truth that has been established by the Creator for what some human being has said, then we're totally doing away. It's like saying, "Oh Allah, what you have created is not." Well, you made mistakes.
I read the Bible. I've read the Bible, and I have a degree in biblical studies. And the Bible, from the Torah to the New Testament, is very clear about. It calls out sin. It calls sin. It talks about the punishment of the sinner throughout the Bible, from Genesis to the Psalms, up into the New Testament, even into the epistles of Paul that this person keeps quoting. So if they see calling misguidance out as misguidance, as not walking in love, they should take their Bible and throw it in the garbage.
Yeah, and I wonder what that whole Sodom and Gomorrah issue is about. I wonder what's going on.
These people. This is just this is part of the ideological attack. So anytime Muslims gathered together, you always don't you notice that anytime the Muslims gathered together online, one or more of these missionary types come along and jump in the chat. Absolutely. To try to change the subject or deviate the conversation to something else and to attack Islam and the Muslims. And don't you always notice that no matter what the Muslims say or how they say it, they always want to work on the lines that somehow the Muslims are angry or mean or belligerent or not accepting or not in the modern time. So this is a part of what the Dr. Farouk post talks about in his book, The Intellectual Invasion. And we're seeing it played out in the chat as we speak.
Brother Muhammad, assalamu alaikum to you. How are you? Brother, you there?
Brother, I'm about to get off because it's Asr time. I got to make Asr, and I'm having dinner with my family at a restaurant tonight, inshallah.
Okay.
So Ramadan Mubarak to you, brother, and have you a successful Ramadan.
Yeah, we
need to hook up also.
Absolutely, inshallah. Let's do that. All right, brother. Enjoy your dinner with your family, and keep me in your dua. And I'll do the same for you. Assalamu alaikum to you. Ramadan.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Brother Katie Muslim Muhammad, are you there?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How are you?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, brother. How are you?
I am good, Alhamdulillah.
Yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah. What do you
All
think about
praises
this
to Allah.
topic?
The topic is very interesting. I just got the notification and I saw that you're online, so I thought that I should come to you and say Ramzan al Mubarak stay to you.
Thank you,
And
brother. Ramadan Mubarak to
may
you as
Allah
well.
have mercy and the blessings upon this ummah.
Thank you,
And
brother.
may Allah guide us all to the right path. That's what we
Ameen.
can pray. And
Ameen.
you as well. What about your health? Are you okay now?
Yeah, no, I haven't had any health problem. You thought I had a health problem?
Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
was
no.
just I got a news from somewhere that you were not well almost 1 month ago, but I couldn't contact you, and that's how I
No,
thought that I should ask you.
no. I've been fine. I was in Israel for 2 months, so no, I was fine.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, no, I was
How
fine.
was
I
your
haven't. It was
How was
great.
your tour?
Yeah, it was a great trip. Very interesting trip, and I enjoyed it immensely. I went to Masjid Al Aqsa
MashaAllah.
and led Salah there for me and a number of brothers there. And while I was there, which was a great blessing, and I'm still shocked that I was able to do that. But yeah, I had a great trip, man. Very interesting.
Yeah. You see, we all we can go to Makkah, we can also go to Medina, but to Israel for this Masjid Al-Aqsa, uh, people they don't go. You see, Muslim they don't have the attention towards Masjid Al-Aqsa that how much importance does this mosque has.
Yeah,
So anyway, I saw you that you were there and enjoying, Alhamdulillah.
yeah, I
Anyway,
did.
talking about today's topic, I watched a video of a Muslim scholar. I think he reverted to Islam and he is very famous. And somebody asked him that is beard fard in Islam? So he said no. So everyone in the audience they were shocked, and even the moderator who asked the question, he was like astonished. What kind of answer did this scholar has given to us? So he said no. It is not fard on the girls. So they understood the joke.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was throwing me for a loop there for a minute, but yeah. So he was trying to joke around about it. Obviously, it is hard. It is compulsory. It
yeah.
is recommended. It's highly recommended, and
You see,
it does away with this whole transgender issue. Uh,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Initially, I didn't understand about this logic that why should we keep the beard. But now I see many men. You see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has given us an identity. Whether we are men, we should be proud of men. Whether we are women, we should be proud of women.
that's right.
Allah has created us in His own style. Okay, so we shouldn't be like this. That okay, you are a woman, I am superior. No, we do not think even like this. But some people they have this inferiority complex. Like the woman they want to become a man, the man they want to become a woman. And today I just heard a news. Like my friend, he told me that there was a very big family in America and their father he changed his gender, and when I saw his picture I was very amazed that he is totally now looking like a woman. So then that hadith came in my mind when then when Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam he said that if any man he dresses up like a woman, may Allah have curse on them. If
Yeah,
any woman he dresses like a man, may Allah have curse on them. So this shows that how ungrateful you are if you change your identity. So beard, it's a man identity, and you see that from since the beginning, all of the people, the greatest people, whether they are religious or not, they all have the beard.
yeah,
Okay, whether we talk about Christians like Jesus, when we talk about Prophet Muhammad Sallam, when we talk about Ibrahim, Moses, and even those people uh, who didn't have any relation to the religion, like they were not like Muslim or Christian, they were atheist. Still, the greatest people they kept the beard. So this is the I can say is the identity of a man. So if you will not take it, I would say that you don't want to look like a man. You don't even take care of this. Anyway,
Yeah.
Jazakallah.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. I'm glad you chimed in on that because that's, you know, I mean, it's clear that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set this in motion in that a man can grow a beard, a woman, even though some women have a little bit of facial hair, but they don't grow a full beard. And so it's Allah Himself who's differentiated male from female very clearly in our whole makeup, and everything that defines us as who we are. I mean, there's some similarities. We all have, males and females have 10 fingers and 10 toes and so forth, but unless you have a deformity, um, but other than that, our anatomy and our DNA and our, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala making it clear that He's given one a degree of 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 strength when it boils down to it, that He's made the man to be more physical, and be able to work and to do more strenuous type things in order to take care of the woman. The woman is more better at nurturing and be a better caregiver overall. And so let's take for example someone who is a woman who's born a woman. She's a woman who decides that she wants to be a man, and tell her to go out there and lay bricks 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. That woman is going to have a very difficult time based on her anatomy and her DNA. Not saying that she can't do it, but she's going to have a more difficult time trying to do a strenuous job and so forth. There's something that requires the male anatomy is, being a stronger specimen, a human being. She's going to be able to. I mean, she's going to have a much tougher time in some fields of work and so forth. And so this is why Allah has made the man a bit stronger to actually, it's a blessing to the woman that the male is to provide for the woman and so forth and so forth. So, I mean, there's clear distinctions, and what better way to define who you are than to let the men grow their beard out. The women obviously don't have a beard, and it just ends the whole discussion. And as far as walking in love, for these Christian people in the chat that are trying to imply that because I'm speaking out against this whole idea that someone can choose to change their gender, that I am somehow doing some type of oppression against them. For one, I'm not talking to any of those people, but if I was talking to those people, my position would maintain, it wouldn't change because they were here. They may listen in the future. It's not going to change. But the fact of the matter is, it is out of love for them that the truth needs to be maintained. And it's out of my love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the truth that He has established that is more important than my concern about a human being and what they might think or say. It's love for the truth that is what matters. So walk in that truth. And that is along the straight path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where there's no deviancy, there's no debauchery, there's no someone putting on a disguise and claiming there's something that they're not. Okay. So you can take all that petty, walk in love and, all that nonsense and just go elsewhere with it, because no one has done anyone an injustice. No one has oppressed these people by speaking out against the idea that they think that they can change their gender when they obviously can't. And if you yourself are in the chat and you know that they can't change their gender, but you're somehow implying that some type of injustice or oppression has been done against them because someone is willing to step up and say, hey, you're not really changing your gender. I don't know why you're saying that you're doing so. You're not really doing it. DNA proves that you're not doing it. XY chromosomes prove you're not doing it. Then how is that oppressing that person? How is that not making that person face the reality and the truth that they're born under? That's what's important. That's what's important. Now, with that being said, I said already earlier in the show that if I seen someone trying to physically harm these people, if I seen them openly mocking, trying to truly like hurt the people's feelings and trying to make fun of them and all that, I would speak out against that. But speaking out and telling the truth on the matter, that's not oppression against anyone. If we don't speak out and speak the truth, then it's an oppression against the truth itself. And if you want to sit idly by and allow the truth to be oppressed, then you go ahead and do so. But I'm a soldier of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm going to step up and I'm going to speak the truth, and I'm going to fight for what's right. And, when DNA says that a man is a man and a female is a female, then what's wrong with standing by that? That's the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our creator, designed us to be. So you can take your non-Muslim attitude and your Islamophobia and go somewhere else if you'd like. Or you can come to the panel and we'll have a discussion, and maybe you can present your case and try to justify why you think that I have somehow done some type of injustice to someone by speaking about this. Brother, welcome back to the show. Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam, brother. Couple of things. So yeah, I was listening to you now, and I came across some information. It's a report. It's got some hadith in it, so I'm going to email that to you. And it's quite interesting also
Yes.
about how the Prophet dealt with certain situations in Medina when coming across various people. And I think you'll find it very, very interesting.
Yeah, please send that.
Yeah, so again, it's a topic of discussion, and a Muslim, we will always acknowledge with love and help and hope and help them to be guided by Allah, and that's the way we do it as Muslims, and that's the way our Prophet would do it also. Peace and blessings be upon him. We are not removing people out of the fold of Islam. We have our brothers and sisters that are facing some internal challenges, and let us help them with knowledge and guidance, and still keep them in the fold of Islam, and help them as much as we can. And that's where I would leave it. This is something of great understanding and knowledge. I'm personally on my own journey with this also, of trying to understand, again, what the Prophet did in Medina. And that book that brother CL, is it brother CL or CJ? CL, yeah, sorry. So I'd love to read the book that he's reading also. But yeah, I've gotten very interested in this topic at the moment, because we've got some mosques that are allowing for gender neutral times, and making it so that they can come and pray individually at certain times, so they are not removed from the fold of Islam, and they are guided still. So again, it's a deep topic, and a lot of research is currently being done into it, and it doesn't hurt us either. I would always want to support a fellow Muslim, or even a non-Muslim coming into the fold of Islam, with these things, and again, our knowledge will only increase helping a fellow Muslim regardless of the challenges, and these are internal challenges that they may be having to deal with. Like the brother I spoke to you previously about, he came to the conclusion now that this is his test, and even though he was homosexual, that is his test from Allah. He has stayed within the fold of Islam, and he just needed, it's been 3 to 4 months now that he's come to that conclusion, and he just needed some time and some patience and some guidance that Allah has provided with him. He came out to his family; they are supporting him with it, and that's his test. Alhamdulillah, he is staying. He's staying within Islam. So again, it is a deep topic, and I'm going to email you. This is fascinating. This is a good 20. How much? 21-page report, very detailed, with different hadiths and the time of the Prophet, and a whole lot of stuff that I'm going to email to you, because
email it.
Guidance and knowledge on this, and looking at how the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, interacted with these people, because there were some people that were around the wives also, that he dealt with. So again, once you read this, it will shed a lot of light on some interesting topics, and may Allah always give us guidance, increase our knowledge, and make us understand more and more and how to deal with these new situations.
Is any of that you've read, that you recall or remember, any of those hadith where the Prophet, peace be upon him, mentioned anything about the beards in that what you're going to send?
Uh, to be honest, brother, it's quite detailed. So, yeah, I would probably just send this to you,
Okay.
because it's a lot of information here
Yeah.
for me to, and I just because I
But do you remember any mention of the beard
uh,
at all?
no, but I've just literally this information as you were on stream, I started looking out for it, and then I came across it. So I
Okay.
haven't really fully. I was just scanning through it while I was waiting,
Yeah.
and so I picked up on these hadith, and it said it's got a title or the time when the Prophet was dealing with certain things. So it's a lot of information. It's 21 pages,
Yeah.
and I couldn't say right now that I had a chance to fully look into it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, let's keep in mind. So we know that as Muslims, for sure, when you're dealing with when you're dealing directly with someone who's suffering from any type of issue, for one, whatever they're going through, you should be empathetic. You should be concerned about their mental health, their emotional stability, and you should use hikmah. You should use wisdom in dealing with their circumstances. You should try to educate yourself on the matter, and try to be compassionate about their dilemma, because obviously it is all a test. Everything that we're dealing with is a test for the people who are directly going through it, and also a test for the people who come in contact with them on whatever level. And so we must certainly be compassionate. I mentioned this in a chapter of my book, where I talk about this in regards to uh, uh, people who are suffering from this. It's a mental health issue. There's no doubt about that. It's a mental health issue, because their bodies themselves the are not the indicator. It's their thoughts and their mind that make them think the way that they're thinking. And so, because that is the issue, it's like someone, I'm not equating it to the exact same thing, but by example, someone who thinks that they're talking to a person that they deem their best friend, that's an imaginary being that is not really there. There's some people out there that this happens to. They think they have an imaginary friend that they talk to. There might be two or three of them that they think they're literally having a discussion with these people that don't really exist. Now, a person who recognizes that this person appears to be talking to themselves, sure, you can mock this person, you can belittle this person, make fun of this person. Of course, that's wrong. You don't want to do that. Instead, you have to be very delicate about how you interact with that individual, and try to get to the root of the problem, and try to, if you can't help them directly, try to get help for that individual.
But
So
yeah, sorry, I want to really just point out one thing. It's really important. So, sorry for interrupting you there. I was having a discussion. I was on an atheist channel, and there was another brother there, and he knew 200 people that had changed their gender. This other person that was online wasn't actually a Muslim, but he had his own journey, and we were trying to be educated because the discussion was about a number of options of, in sports, is it fair for a man who then becomes a woman competing directly with a woman in sports? And we're talking about the different genetic advantages a man may have against a woman. And so he said that it's also very common now that there are also false positives, where someone feels that they may be a female, but that it's a false thing, and they start going through the surgery and all that, just because of society is developing these different thoughts. Yeah.
yeah,
So this is where it's so vital that we are knowledgeable about this, because our brothers or sisters are some younger members, they may, that's why we need to be patient with them, and we need to be knowledgeable, that we can say, listen, there are 200 people. Out of those 200 people, 70% of them will change their minds at different stages, and so you may be going
well,
through this, and this is where we have to
yeah.
provide guidance and allow Allah to
The
help
the
guide.
compassion the compassion should be there, but there should be a limit to the degree in which the compassion is manifested. And I'm saying that because, if you are so compassion is a good thing. being empathetic and being understanding, that's all beautiful. We should do that, but not in compromising reality in the truth. So, like when you said that this guy knows 200 people who gender, actually he doesn't know anyone who's ever changed their gender, because no one ever changes their gender. It's
Well,
impossible.
you know what I mean.
But I understand what you mean by
mentally
that.
and
But-
yeah, taken
so-
estrogens and all
Yeah.
these different things. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I understand, but the reality of it is, the point that I'm trying to make is that there's no compromise about what the actual truth is. So yes, it's to be compassionate, but not to the point that you give in to the truth and saying, okay, Mike, I'm going to call you Michelle now because you really believe that you're Michelle, instead of saying, Mike, I realize that you believe this, and I mean no offense to you, but I can't call you Michelle because I was in the locker room with you, Mike, and I know that you have the same anatomy that I have, and I can't call you Michelle, Mike, because I played football with you, and I know that you're not a Michelle, and I don't mean to be offensive to you about that. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but I recommend that you do some, go get some counseling, and instead of getting drugs to change your quote unquote gender that you're never going to accomplish, how about get some drugs to if need be, and get some counseling to help get through this issue that you're going through? Because as you mentioned, a vast majority of these people, a lot of times it starts in childhood and they eventually grow out of it. A lot of these people, they go and try to want to make this change and they regret it afterwards, and they wish that they never did it. All of this is indicative of mental health problems.
Well,
And-
it's also
Yeah.
in schools when they're bringing it up at a very young age.
Yes.
In some parts, the Muslim parents in particular have protested and said, we do not want our 5-year-olds talking about these subjects, and this is not something for the schools to be implementing at this stage, because they're too young to recognize, and you're developing ideas in them that they may not be susceptible, or they're impressionable. And these are huge decisions to make medically also, in terms of the changes that could be made, and what age does someone also be in that thought process that they are aware. And when the brain is fully developed also, there's arguments for that the brain doesn't fully develop until maybe 25 to 30 years old. So making that decision about changing gender, or trying to make changes to your appearance, can have a tragedy in someone's life also. So again, it is a complex thing. Again, how you would deal with someone that you knew, and gracefully discuss it with them, and your thoughts. That is the way things should be done, when you discuss it with somebody.
Yeah. And it's starting even earlier than elementary. If you look at this, and I'm going to be doing a show about this in a few days, inshallah. But you see this toy here, it says gender neutral, right? And what's the whole purpose of putting this gender neutral up here in this left-hand corner is feeds into this narrative, this new idea that someone can change their gender. And obviously this is gender dysphoria is what the psychologists refer to this as. But let's be honest, the baby dolls and so forth throughout history, they don't have genitalia attached to them. So it boils down to a child, be they male or female, they can imagine that the baby that they were playing with, this little baby doll that they're playing with, they can imagine that it's a male, they can imagine that it's a female. That's not a problem. It doesn't matter. In fact, it doesn't matter if a little boy has a little baby and he's pretending that it's a male or a female. These little baby doll toys like the one we just seen. It doesn't matter if it's him or a little girl that's doing it. They're still using their imagination. There's nothing wrong with just as there's nothing wrong with the man, caring for his little baby boy. There's no problem with the little baby boy playing with the little baby, or a man, raising his baby girl for that matter. So it doesn't matter if the child, male or female, is pretending that this little baby doll is male or female. That doesn't really matter. That's no big deal. That's an imagination. That's really a part of development and nurturing and learning how, pretending it's a baby and you want to do what mom and dad did and, all those types of things. But the problem comes when you start putting this term on the box, gender neutral, in suggesting that this little toy baby that's in the box that's actually dressed in pink and so forth, it might be a girl or a boy, and which you don't really need to define that, because the child's going to make their mind up as far as their imagination goes about what they're imagining this child to be. But it feeds into the idea that you should not assign a sex to a child. And there's some people out there pushing against that you should not, despite what their DNA says, that you should not quote unquote assign them a sex or a gender at birth, that you're oppressing the baby by giving them a gender at birth. And so now we're in this bigger game of make believe, this bigger world of imagination, where a person is obviously a male, but is imagining that he's a female and expects you to play make believe along with him, and imagining that guy who's Mike that you played football with is now Michelle. But you know better. But am I wrong, Mike, or supporters of Mike? I mean, no offense to Mike. I like Mike, but Mike, I've seen you with no clothes on in the locker room, and you are a male. You have male anatomy. So your body's not telling you that you're female. Your mind is telling you you're female. That's a mental health issue. Whether you have great mental health or you have a problem with your mental health, it's a mental health issue. And so should someone else's, because of my compassion for Mike and my like for Mike, being a friend of Mike, should I allow that compassion to be overrun and be oppressed, and I give in eventually because of the pressures of society that are telling me that I'm not showing love and I'm not being compassionate, and I'm not saying anything offensive to Mike, but because I refuse to call Mike Michelle or recognize him as a female, that I'm doing something wrong. And so because of the pressure against me as an individual, where society is saying no, you're wrong, you're the bad guy because you're not giving in to the make believe or the imagination of these people who have a mental health problem, then you're the problem. And that's reverse. That's reverse oppression.
You're right, because I want to break it up because I want to separate, because it's a big topic. So how you deal with Mike individually, let's put that to one side. That I found that really interesting what you said about they're telling people, I hadn't even heard of that they are asking people not to identify a child as male or female from birth. See, now that would be for me, that would be oppression of me. Yes, you're telling me I've had my child. Then that's a whole different topic then. And so that's where you've got to
see, that's the broader picture. And that's why I'm saying there must be a balance there, because now it's either you're so compassionate saying, well, yeah, I love Mike, man, I played football with him, gave him high fives, we were friends and buddies.
At the point where they're struggling with their identity, that's fine. Yeah. But we're now we're implementing, and there's two things. With the doll, they've presumed pink means neutral. Why is pink neutral? Why not blue?
Well,
how do you come to that decision?
Yeah, but the thing is, goes back to I don't know if you listened to all the hadith that I mentioned earlier in the show, but I read about 9 or 10 different hadith where it's referring to those people who do not grow their beards as being those who are effeminate. That that the purpose of the beard is to distinguish the male from the female, and that the solution for the person who is effeminate and has a tendency to be effeminate is for him to grow his beard and look at yourself now and present yourself to the world as a man, and it changes the whole complexity of the situation, because your complex itself, or your complexion itself, has changed, because now instead of shaving your face and wanting to be all smooth like a woman, now you have a beard that makes you clearly distinguished as a man. Now that eliminates the issue outwardly that you're struggling with internally. But there's building blocks that need to be put in place. But when you have this happening where they want to have on the birth certificates that they place on there they or them or it, and take off female or male. They're literally pushing this.
Well,
And
see,
so
this is the
now we
problem.
have a big problem now, because
Yeah.
now you're oppressing common sense and logic and reason and the very design of our creator. And you're expecting that I'm supposed to be so compassionate and so loving that I finally eventually break down systematically. I've been broken down by the system, by society's expectations, by the whispering of the shaitan, to eventually say, you know what? I give in. Mike is Michelle, and how dare I ever thought different? He has the right to be able to choose his identity. And next week, when someone wants to choose to be an octopus, even though they can't grow 4 extra tentacles to prove that they're an octopus, just like the woman can't grow a penis to prove that she's a man, it doesn't matter. That person's still going to be an octopus. Well, I choose to identify as a 15-year-old, freshman in high school. And I expect everyone from here on out to refer to me as a 15-year-old freshman in high school. As a matter of fact, I want to go back to high school. I want to present myself and self-identify as a 15-year-old, and as a 15-year-old by state law, as a 15-year-old, if I'm being recognized as a 15-year-old, then as a recognized 15-year-old, then I have the right to go back to high school as a 15-year-old, even though I'm fully grown and 51 years old in about 8 days from now. But instead, I want to identify as the reverse of that, and I'm 15 now, and you have to accept it. Check me in the school. Let's get busy. I also want to play football again.
There has to be some a much more bigger thought, and obviously what you're saying from birth. Then the question is, then what percentage of the population are dealing with transgender issues? So if it's a small percentage, like 2% or 5%,
it's the most that I've heard. It's 5%, and I think that's
wow.
I think that's a bit of a stretch. But what's happening is that they're pushing it so much. It starts out small right now. It's only 2% or 5%. But as they keep pushing this idea, and they're starting it younger and younger and younger, even to the point they want to start it at the birth of a child, then that statistic is going to start growing and growing and growing, and they're going to expect it, in the workplace, and the whole it's going to extend further.
Another argument that was being discussed was, why hasn't this been the case for the last 50, 60 years? Why all of a sudden now? Is it because we are now promoting it now? Are we putting more emphasis into it when it's a smaller percentage? Do we just need to make people aware that, okay, fine, if your child is showing signs of gender crisis, how do you deal with it? And let them grow up and guide them through those sort of things. And there is nothing wrong with see, this is the thing. I think you're even oppressing people by putting them in a case where you are only to do this or you are only to do that. Yes, as a man, I can cook. I'm a proud man that can provide for my family and cook meat. And you learn different things. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, he had many skills, and that didn't make him a feminist, a feminine man. He had a multitude of things, and you can still do that.
That's the point that I brought up when the prophet, peace be upon him, used to mend his own clothes and shoes and sandals and so forth. Now, I seen a very popular brother being mocked, brother Mufti Mink, right, being mocked because he was on a video showing his children how to sew, and there were some other Muslims who were in this world of social media that were mocking him and belittling him for teaching his children how to sew, and that doesn't make the man, the brother, feminine. That makes him a responsible, good father who was blessed to have been taught how to sew himself, and he's passing that on to his children. That doesn't make him feminine. He's still a man. He's got a beautiful big beard, Mufti Mink, and but been attacked and been ridiculed because he was in a video showing his children how to sew. Wait a minute. The Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to mend and sew his own clothes and repair his own clothes. He didn't have his wives do it. He was very independent as far as taking care of his own household chores and doing chores for his wives. As a matter of fact, it doesn't make him effeminate by no means. So yes, the role that the man and the woman can play, that could be equal across the board. Although women, as far as more physical labor, they're because they go through the menstrual cycle and they're weaker by nature. They're gonna struggle with more physical labor more than a man would. But on the flip side of that, the woman is more accustomed and by nature, a better caregiver from the nurturing on a daily basis with the children. She's a better nurturer and a better caregiver on that aspect. The man's a better caregiver as far as economically and financially, and playing his role. So there's a balance there. But when you begin to confuse the balance in that, and saying that this man who is genetically DNA wise, biologically he's a man, but now you have to refer to him as a female because society is pressuring you to do so, and because you want to be a good Muslim, you have to give in to that and start calling this man a lady. Man, that's no. We listen. That's a denial of the truth of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a denial of His creation. I'm not saying by no means to oppress those people, but I'm saying tell those people the truth, despite and do it delicately and
with knowledge. And
Yeah,
with knowledge. If
yes.
we are so knowledgeable about this topic, we can have an intellectual. I was reading a hadith, and probably said, deal with the people that appeals to their intellect and their hearts, something along those lines. And may Allah forgive me if I'm got it completely right. I heard someone mention it, but literally it is to appeal to the intellect, appeal to the knowledge, and that is our jobs also. If I'm going to engage with somebody, I'm trying to arrange a conversation with someone in the LGBTQ community, because I want knowledge about it in terms of medically, what sort of information do they have access to. It is fascinating because, again, personally, as I told you, I came across somebody that was struggling with something, and by some guidance, they stayed within the fold of Islam. So again, our brothers and sisters may be struggling with these, and with now society pumping in these mixed messages, for our children and the next generations, I feel it's our jobs to be as knowledgeable as possible in these topics. We should be the ones to know all the science about these things. We should know the after effects. We should also know about the damage wrongful thinking and false positives, for example, can do, because that's not something I knew from our regular conversation with someone. This person that was online was saying, yeah, this is what's happened. I've known so many people, as because they've got confused, or they're not sure at an early age. They thought they were going in one direction, but now they've decided that they were fine as they were. But I mean, this is this is where our knowledge, our guidance, and us being as knowledgeable and ahead of science and all of the arguments that we can now help and support people. But yeah, that's fine.
That's why I've been looking into it more and more, because it's a very serious issue that we're going to have to address, and so I mean that's what we're here doing now, and it's an ongoing process, and it's going to be an ongoing. I don't want to say battle, but it's a battle between truth and falsehood, and
and intellect and science and all these other challenges that we have within our society, and within the ummah, basically, and we shouldn't shy away from them. We should be ahead of them, because again, this is I might have a Muslim brother or sister that are struggling with that. I don't want them running from Allah. I want them running to Allah, saying, I have this problem. I need guidance. I need to go and pray. I want Allah's guidance on this, and then have support around them. A lot of these brothers and sisters, if it does happen, we don't want them leaving their families. We don't want them breaking their ties. because of a lack of information and lack of knowledge. And again, this is from my experience that I've had with a brother. I'm very fortunate that I was able to just take a step back, help him out, give him some guidance, and rather than him, being in a state of confusion, which happens. They're young, they're impressionable, they're still gaining knowledge. They're being influenced by social media, all these other things. It can happen, and it's our job to safeguard our generations, and provide them with enough knowledge as possible. But yeah, even seeing that doll, I'm like, well, why is it pink? Why not blue also?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to get at a second ago, is that even though it's supposed to be gender neutral, they've got it dressed in pink, which is also indicative of the fact that it's a feminization of the male, trying to make the male think it's okay if you have these female tendencies and so forth. Well, guess what? The solution is grow your beard. Grow your beard. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said to grow your beard. It's to distinguish the male from the female, the true believers from the disbelievers, from the Muslims from the fire worshippers and the pagans, the polytheists, to distinguish truth from falsehood. Grow your beard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the man capable of growing his beard. And if you can stop for 6 months and don't pull a razor out and see the facial hair that grows on your face and still claim that you're a woman, then there's a deeper mental problem that's there. Because if you have a full face of hair on, you've got a full beard after 6 months, very significant, nice beard, and you're still calling yourself a female, then obviously the problem is not your physical makeup. It's nothing physical. It's all mental, and the problem lies. It's a mental health issue. It's called gender dysphoria, and it needs, there needs to be medical treatment sought about that. There needs to be counseling about it. There needs to be Muslim, or not just Muslim, but there needs to be religious leaders, Muslim Christians and Jews, to step up and say, hey, you know what? Our Creator made us clearly males and females for a reason, in order to procreate. And, you can't house a bunch of, by example, you can't put together a community where it's a bunch of people who were born as females. They're females, and put the community just by themselves, and they're all men. They're calling themselves men. Well, they'll never be able to procreate. Eventually that community will die off. The same thing applies to males who think that they're women. You put them all together and they'll die out. Better yet, there's so many different combinations we can mention, but the fact of the matter is that these communities would die out if that were the case. Procreation would never take place. And what I mean by that, by example, if you have a herd of horses, and you're saying that all these male horses, even though they have testicles and you can see they have male anatomy, but you're calling them all female, well, how are you ever going to have any other horses from this? Let's say let me give a better example. You have 5 legitimate female horses, and then you have 5 female horses that you're referring to as male horses. Okay, so you have 5 that you're calling female because they're female, and you have 5 that are female that you're pretending or calling them male. Now, are you ever going to get any more horses out of that combination? Absolutely not, because there's a lie being told there. There's a falsehood there. There's an imagination there. There's make-believe being played there, and it's never going to work. The same thing applies to mankind. So the Muslim, Christian, and the Jew, yes, we should be compassionate about these people and realize that they have a mental health issue, just like someone who thinks that they're talking to an imaginary friend. You, in your sound mind, you know that they don't have an imaginary friend. And so you got to be very cautious about how you deal with this person, because you may tell them something that may totally break their heart, and they have to realize that this friend that I thought that I've had this whole time, it doesn't really exist. It could cause someone to commit suicide, which is also indicative of the mental health issue that this particular community that we're talking about, many of them commit suicide. It's a very high rate, even for this small group of people. The suicide rate is outrageous. And matter of fact, I don't have my notes for that portion of the book up
Can the
right now. But
medication that they're also taking
yeah,
have an
yes,
effect on that? Yeah, just wondering, because this was another argument that also, there's further information needed on how the mental health can affect some, the side effects of certain medications and procedures, and how that can affect them also. So it's a very deep, vast topic. Have you? When are you planning on doing this stream on this next topic?
I'm not sure. I've got to go to a funeral tomorrow, and maybe Sunday or Monday, inshallah. Sunday or Monday. Maybe Sunday evening.
Have you been reading up on the topic?
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, inshallah.
Yeah,
Brother. I think what's happening here is you've got so much knowledge about it, and so you're sort of informing us, because after your knowledge, you're saying, well, right, this is where my conclusions are.
Yeah.
But I'd love that we explore this topic, and then we revisit after we've seen what knowledge you're sharing with us also on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would be a.
No,
So
this
then we
is
can
an
understand.
ongoing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
your thoughts and things, and also I'll send over this information to you. And
yeah, please do that, because it's going to add to what I've been studying already. And I've already written a very significant chapter with many sources and a lot of statistics and all that, and go into all that right now. So I'm not just talking off the cuff about giving.
Yeah, no, but I think so. I think this is the importance of you giving us that knowledge first, and because you're talking a place of like, yeah, I've already studied this, so I know where you already know the end chapter in a way,
Yeah.
because of your mashallah, or your dedication to your knowledge and increasing your knowledge. But yeah, I think it'd be great after once you've shared this with us, and we can, because it is a deep topic, and it's our job to educate our other brothers and sisters who might have to deal with someone in their family also, and have to deal with them in a way that is best, like the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, suggested.
No, I'm seeing something as you're saying that, and you're totally right about all that, brother. Absolutely. And I'm seeing something in the chat that I have to address because it's so far-fetched. This individual, Videos One, and I know who this person is, and she thinks that I don't know who she is, and I totally do know who she is. But nevertheless, she says, "Dear Kenny, have you administered personally?" Well, the sentence is wrong,
Administered
but
to person
person-
who identifies as a transgender ?
Okay, I have. I know one personally, but they aren't to be murdered. They need the kind God of love in Christ. Who
No,
said
that's
anything
murder.
about murdering? Who said anything about
Astaghfirullah.
murdering people?
This is the problem, our dear Christian brothers and sisters, and I'll just dealt with this on another stream. Do not project your hatred of and your Holy Spirit on us. We've just spent the last 10 to 15 minutes talking about understanding and knowledge and science and discussion and compassion, and these comments come from our Christian brothers and sisters. Where's I don't think that's any love. You're projecting a lot of hatred, and who's talking about any sort of killing?
The hypocrisy is outrageous in these people, man.
In the name of the Lord, most gracious, most merciful, that is who we serve. And our God is merciful. And we will look after our brothers and sisters in humanity and within our ummah also. Because this is a topic that we have to deal with. And we will deal with it with compassion and knowledge and understanding. And we will be there for our brothers and sisters. And again, it is something that we are all learning about. So again, please don't bring this, this Christian love-hate that we see so often. Sorry, brother.
No, I appreciate it. It's so aggravating. Speaking about that, the swimmer, the name slips my mind right now. The swimmer that was recently in the news who beat the other women swimming and so forth, and he's about 6'5", 6'6". He's a big guy, and he's competing as a woman. And I can't remember his name right now. But I seen a picture where he's standing on the podium or on the stage, and he's standing by himself, supposed to be a woman, and the other three women, or three of the other women, two of them who were medalists, maybe all three of them were second, third, fourth, or whatever. but they were all together, and as far as compassion goes, I found myself as I looked at that picture, although it looked so absurd in regards to this big tall guy who ranked number one. He's the champion, and broke a record in a couple of swimming events and so forth. But in as competing as a male, he was ranked like 406 or 402, whatever it was. And so the initial impact of seeing the photo and saying, "Man, this guy, that's a man, and he's calling himself a woman." So that there's that aspect of it. But as far as the compassion and the concern for another human being goes, I found myself looking at that person and also looking at him in the water and thinking, man, and knowing what I know about the suicide rates for these people, that I'm thinking, man, it makes me conscious. And really, I'm kind of glad that it's gone this route, and because as far as this person claiming about murder and so forth, which is far-fetched, but this whole conversation makes me even want to be more compassionate in regards to how it's dealt with, because I'm thinking, and it comes to mind again as I'm reminded of how I felt when I was looking at the video of him in the water. Whenever he wasn't swimming at that time, but just the look on his face and so forth, and the look at him standing there on that stage, I thought, and knowing what I know about the suicide rates and the mental health issue and all that, I found myself thinking, man, depending on how the world reacts to this situation, this individual, one of those statistics that commit suicide because of the mockery, and if in his mind he truly believes he's a woman, then it is a very serious issue, in that if this person sincerely believes it, just like I just mentioned about the person who sincerely believes they've been talking to an imaginary friend, if they truly believe that and their mind is telling them that's not necessarily a choice. I think there's a big broad spectrum of, some people just they're doing it by choice, but some people might sincerely, their mind is telling them that they're truly a female, and in that situation, and they're being mocked for it, they're being ridiculed, being made fun of, then that could be the very thing that pushes them over the edge to where they commit suicide, and they do become one of those statistics that we're talking about. So with that being said, may Allah forgive us for forgive me in particular for any harshness, but my intention is to defend the truth of Allah, but there's got to be a balance there where we say, okay, if we know that someone has a mental health issue, then we have to approach it from that standpoint and say, you know what, I don't want to be the trigger for this person to go over the edge and harm themselves because they feel so hurt by what people are saying. We have to be conscious about that.
It's such a broad topic, brother, and they're speaking it on the other end, because the conversation we're having, this is about non-Muslims, and they were like, well, a 12-year-old male who becomes a female could potentially beat an 18-year-old female who's been doing it all her life. Where's the fairness in that? And there's so many different categories of where this sort of a balance has to come, and the spectrum of it, as in terms of what people are going through, who's naturally doing it, who's become a product of their environment, where you're being pumped with a certain thing, that becomes your environment, and you grow up into it, and you believe that it's something else also. So again,
especially if we consider what teenagers go through, everyone goes through a period where they start going through puberty, and especially with females, they begin to have complexes about their body, and they're very conscious about their body. They're more aware of their body. Even same thing happens with guys, but this is part of a teenage issue, and so it's easy to want to try to run from your perceived problem and try to, you want to try to change it. And what happens is these people try to go about the process of trying to change their presentation to the world, as far as, they want to feel different is what it boils down to. They don't feel good about who they are, and they want to feel different, and they think that if they change what the problem is, that they see that there's a problem within themselves, and that they have a particular look, but they don't feel the way they look. They don't look the way they feel. So the problem extends in their minds, in that, it's a conflict and a clash between what their body looks like and what they actually feel internally. So with that being said, they want to change that which is the problem, and that is their physical makeup. They obviously they can't change the way they feel. A person doesn't choose how they feel. You feel how you feel, and that's just how you feel. There's nothing wrong with that. But they see the problem as being the body, and so they want to change what they look like, thinking that that's going to be the solution. And a lot of these people, they do make the change, they regret the change, and even while they've made the change, they're still not happy, and they're still struggling. Now they're being ridiculed for other reasons, and they want to be. They feel like, okay, now I went too far in a lot of instances. There's so many different levels of this, but sometimes they go too far. They start mutilating their body and getting implants and all these things, and they've taken it a step too far, and they regret. Now they're still suffering from a mental health issue, and they want to go back, but now it's too late. Now what are people going to say? And so it's just one thing after another, after another, after another, and it's all a mental health issue. It's a real mental health issue. And yes, they need to be dealt with delicately. They need to be dealt with compassion. They need to be dealt with patience and knowledge and wisdom, and with facts and so forth. It's a big issue, and it's a big issue. It's
something I want to just compliment you and for this. Do you know what? This is the mercy of being a Muslim, and this is the mercy that we are talking about it. We're trying to extend our knowledge about it. So we're seeing the suffering that people are going through. This is what being a Muslim is about. Serving others, being in service of others. And we're doing that with knowledge and trying to learn about it. We are made of different tribes so that you may know each other. Again, as a Muslim, and I'm interacting with somebody in the LGBT community, I would like knowledge so I can understand. The difficulties maybe they are suffering from. And again, I spoke to someone online a couple of years ago, and I didn't even realize it. And they had gone through so much suffering, going backwards and forwards. I didn't even realize it. This was when I was doing some counseling work for a suicide group, and there was one individual that I was, just sort of keeping tabs on, seeing if they were okay and touching base with. But they had such horribleness because they had this trauma of going backwards and forwards through their gender. I didn't even clock this until I've just spoken to you now, and it was a good 3-4 years ago. But again, this is the mercy, and again to anyone in the comments or anybody watching, this is in times. This is Muslims, even non-Muslims, again, atheists. We were having a huge discussion about this, on where to go to the bathrooms in shops and stalls, and how to accommodate, what to accommodate, where are the lines. So it is a huge topic. And as Muslims, and Kenny also is talking about suicide rates also, and this is compassion. This is gaining knowledge in order to understand that there is also problems here, and how can we be compassionate towards our brothers and sisters in humanity.
See, those things need to be brought out, in that if the statistics show and they do show that there's a very high suicide rate, then when people are struggling with this mental health issue, that it should be brought to their attention that, look, there's for people who are feeling like you do, nothing wrong with how you feel. You don't choose how you feel. There's nothing wrong with how you feel. But for people who struggle with this, there's a very high suicide rate. So, you know, making it clear and addressing that point up front and saying, look, do you feel this way? If you feel this way, it's not funny, but saying, do you finding out at what level is this person being affected? Have you ever had thoughts of suicide? Because if that's the issue, then we need to know which route to go. We need to know which door to go through and deal with that. Because that's not the solution. No matter how you feel, no matter what society says, no matter what's going on, no matter how rude people are, how much mockery takes place, please don't harm yourself. It's not worth that. And we're going to make sure that no one else harms you as well on top of that, but find the deep rooted issue and be willing to discuss the things that are difficult in a constructive fashion, and not just be narrow-minded and be one-sided and be harsh and be uncompassionate and uncaring and unempathetic. There's got to be a balance there. As Muslims, there must be a balance there. Now, with that said, what aggravates me is that the potential for this I'm going to refer to it as a movement. This in this direction, that it affecting other young people, other people who are being influenced by the idea that they can change their gender. Let's be honest. No one's gender is changing. Their biology is not changing. It's just not. And so that needs to be, as hard as that is to hear, a person needs to be told, listen, the suicide rate amongst this group of people that you happen to be a part of is high. Please don't harm yourself no matter what happens, no matter what's said. No, we're going to work through it. We're going to work through it as together, as a community, as individuals, as one-on-one, however we need to do it. We're going to work through it. Don't do that. But at the same time, we're going to have to say, what's making you feel this way? Is it something that you see in your body? Is it something on your body that you see? It's probably not that. It's your thoughts that are making you think that you're something, different than what, your DNA says that you are. And so therefore we're dealing with a mental health issue. And so it's got to be addressed as such. And so what has to be avoided is triggering this person to feel so ashamed, or feel so isolated, or feel so
it could be a number of reasons.
Different.
It could be a whole number of reasons.
Yeah,
you could
they
be
harm
a
themselves.
Slave of society now.
Yeah.
Because now all of a sudden there's a different type of narrative being pushed, that you people are having these conversations. So it's a deep topic. There's different studies on it. It's ongoing. Nobody can nobody can have a full answer on it either at the moment, because there are different thoughts on things, and there are different studies being ongoing. So again, brother, I would love it that once you've had your next show, we go through it in detail, then we'll get a better understanding of where you're coming from.
Yeah.
As a whole,
I see that someone was backstage. Lady Avon was backstage. I was caught up talking, and I didn't notice that someone else was backstage. But if you'd like to come back, you feel free to come back and join the panel if you'd like. We'll wait a few minutes to see if Lady Avon. I do apologize about that. I didn't see you back there.
Yeah, no, sure. I'm thrilled with these sort of discussions, because again, we want to gain knowledge. We want to talk about it. And
sometimes I get caught up in the discussion. I'm literally not looking at the chat, and I'm not paying attention to that. I'm caught up in the discussion, and my thoughts are processing and so forth. So I apologize about that if you were backstage and I didn't see you back there.
Okay,
it's Mindy. Yeah, Mindy. It's Mindy. Well, Mindy, come join the discussion, but don't come over here and get mad at me. Mindy is an atheist. She is a friend
Okay, great.
an online friend, but we've been dealing with each other for a while. But I think she removed me from her friends list recently, and she's here, so we'll talk about that, I'm sure. Mindy Domir, welcome to the panel. How
Yeah.
are you?
I'm good. My internet, I'm in rural internet, so I can't turn my camera on. And if I drop out, it's not because I'm leaving, it's because my internet is shady.
All righty. Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Nice
So,
to meet you.
did you remove me from your friends list? You get frustrated with me, or what is it?
Okay, so I respect that you have this idea of what trans people are. You have your opinion on them. You are totally allowed to have that opinion. I get that. My issue was the mockery that you were having.
Mockery?
And that's what upset me, because you put up that, well, I identify as a kryptonite now or Kryptonian now, and I identify as an octopus. And I felt like that was very disingenuous to the argument, that when you're mocking your side of the argument or the other people that you're arguing against, I feel like that reduces any kind of conversation that we have. And I had tried to talk to you about it, but you just continued to do that, and I just felt like that was very frustrating to me, and it upset me a lot, because I wanted to have this discussion with you, but I wanted to have it in a way where we could leave the mockery to the side. You know what I mean? So that really upset me, because I respect you, and I respect you a lot. And it really caught me off guard that you reduced your side of the argument to the mockery, and that was really upsetting to me.
Okay, I've got to be more conscious about how I present these things. I mean, obviously, so I'm not perfect. I do apologize, and I need to be more conscientious about how this particular thing is presented. So I don't want to make excuses for myself. I'm not going to make any excuses for myself. But the only way I can do, only thing I can do is explain my desire to defend my creator. In that, not that he needs me to defend him by any means, but I'm saying the defense of the very design that Allah has created us to be as men and women, or males and females. And so it's my frustration that I need to be more patient in dealing with my frustration regarding the obvious refusal to acknowledge simple common sense. And it's like, so I'm not so much I'm not like making fun of anyone. I'm not seriously, I mean this with all my heart. Allah knows that what I'm saying is true. Just like I was mentioning about that swimmer, I can't remember his name right now for whatever reason, but
her name is Leah Thomas.
Okay, well, so whatever his name used to be,
her.
See?
Now, the reason. Okay, so the reason why I'm trying to. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so. Like I wouldn't want to say anything that would cause anyone to say, just like, I'm tired of hearing all this, and they harm themselves or something like that, or even feel bad. That's not.
But you
that's
realize
really
that by misgendering them is doing exactly that.
Yeah, but see, I don't.
Like that's just
at
common
the same
respect,
time,
though. Like
no, but where? So this is where my dilemma is. Where's the respect for what DNA states? Because
because that's biological sex, that's different.
Okay.
The way you identify socially, yes, it is. When you identify socially, that's your gender.
Okay.
That's
okay.
Your
So
gender
if
is something that society has created for us. But then there's also biological sex. So they're two separate things. Okay. Your biological sex is what's in your chromosomes and your DNA. And yes, you can't change that. We are all aware of that, because somebody that's trans, that say, for example, it's a man that now identifies as a female and they're a woman. When they go to the doctor, they have to tell their doctor, I am biologically a male, because that's going to affect their actual, like their health care, their medical care, that type of thing. Okay. But the way they identify when, say, they go out shopping or they spend time with other people, they identify as female. So they're two very separate things.
No, they're not really though, Mindy, because
They
the
are.
reality of it
They
is
are. If you look at the
well,
definitions of them, they are.
okay. Well, let's look at the definition of what happens when someone dies. What happens when this person dies? If you wanted to go and find out what this person was, who this person was, the DNA is going to say if this was a male or a female. That's a fact, and that's so. It doesn't matter what.
That's actually incorrect as well.
No, it's not. It's not incorrect.
It is.
No, it's not.
Well, let me give you an
The
example.
DNA
Let
is
me
not
give you an
going to say.
example. What
The
about
DNA is
somebody?
not going to.
What about somebody
hold on.
that's intersex? What about somebody that's intersexed?
The DNA. What do you mean a hermaphrodite?
It's called intersexed, but somebody that has both male and female
Gonna tell you.
characteristics, or somebody that has a chromosomal disorder, somebody
Okay.
that say has an XXY or
If you can find a study, if you can find a study where someone has found the remains of a human being and they weren't able to identify whether or not that individual, if they had enough DNA to work with, for one, they have to have enough DNA. There are circumstances where
that's
they
the thing is we
can't identify
don't know
for some
all the
reason.
times, right?
But the fact of the matter is the overwhelming evidence is that when someone dies, they can, based on their DNA, identify that person was a male or a female. They're never left saying
biologically,
right.
Normally, yes.
Yes,
But that doesn't
right.
say how they identify. That doesn't say how they identified in their culture that they were in.
Okay, but that's that person's mind telling them that. That's not their genetics telling them, or their DNA telling them that. So that means that's a mental health issue. That's just like a person. Well, it's just like a person who is, as I mentioned earlier, claiming that they have an imaginary friend. Well, they don't really have an imaginary friend, but they truly believe that they have an imaginary friend. That's a mental health issue, and
yes, that's a chemical imbalance in the brain that can be corrected most times with medication.
Yeah, and that's the same thing that transpires in gender dysphoria. They have medication.
So that's why
they can
people
deal
get.
with that.
Yeah, they can take hormones. They can have surgery. They can do all things so that their outside matches their inside.
Oh, inside is male, by example. Their inside is male, and they somehow feel female. Then is the solution to give them hormones and suppress the testosterone? Maybe give them a little more testosterone.
If they choose to.
So if they choose to, that means that they're choosing for themselves what they're something that's contrary to their DNA.
Let me ask you a quick question. Am I a female or a male, Kenny?
You're female.
And how do you know that?
Because you've had a child, correct?
I have had a child. Yeah.
Yes.
But
and you have a menstrual cycle.
Oh, but wait. There's more to this.
Okay.
Because I've told you that I'm a female. But I actually have more testosterone than the normal woman because I have a tumor on my renal gland that produces more testosterone. So I have other medical issues that are created because my system produces more testosterone than your normal woman. Does that make me a man?
No, because you don't have testicles, but you do have a womb and you have a uterus, and you're capable of producing, carrying a baby for 9 months. And so therefore you're a woman.
One out of four women are born without a uterus or something wrong with their uterus and they can't conceive. Does that make them any less than a woman?
No, that does not. Absolutely not. But that doesn't make them a man either, right?
So they can be non-binary.
If they have a medical issue in which they, for whatever reason, their body cannot carry a baby or they cannot get pregnant or whatever, that doesn't disqualify them from being a woman, and therefore it also doesn't qualify them as being a man.
We can agree that there's more to identifying as a male or female than our reproductive organs.
No, we can't. I don't know how you would deduce that. Because
I have a friend that has. Wait. I have a friend that was born with an ovary and a testicle. Which one are they?
You have a friend that was. You really have a friend that was born like that?
I do. Mm-hmm. She identifies as female. She was assigned male at birth, and she didn't find out until she was 19 if she had medical issue, and they did exploratory surgery, and they found an ovary.
Okay. Does she
So
have
she was diagnosed as intersex.
Okay. Does this person have a menstrual cycle?
No, she doesn't have a uterus, but she was born with an
Okay.
ovary.
Okay. She has an ovary. Does she have testicles?
She has one testicle.
Okay. So he has testicles. He has one testicle and one ovary.
No, she was born with a testicle and an ovary. And now the ovary was malformed and had to be removed, but she did for the first 19 years of her life have an ovary.
Okay. Well, that person
And if you want to talk to her, she does have a YouTube channel. I can discuss with her whether or not she'd like to come and talk to you about that.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I'd have to get in contact with her. But
yeah. So we know that there's issues where they're hermaphrodites. We know there's issue where there are deformities that take place, and that's kind of a situation where a person in that circumstance is I would say more free to choose how they present themselves to the world.
So why do they get the choice?
And I truly feel that
somebody that's born normal doesn't. Okay,
Huh?
but why does somebody that's born abnormally get the choice where the rest of us don't?
Okay, so
Why-
if
who
we're
decides that?
dealing with a person like Bruce Jenner, by example, who was obviously he's male and has testicles, has no ovary, has no female body parts whatsoever, but has decided for himself that he is a female. That's a different scenario.
How
Because
so?
now because that deformity is not there, and this is a person who
So you have to be
it's
deformed
not-
in order to be able to make the choice of what your gender is?
Well, why not? Because if the
But who
if
makes
the
that
genetic
rule?
makeup, well, if the genetic makeup defines that person as a man, and Bruce Jenner has no deformity, has no cross, has no one testicle, one ovary situation. First time I've heard of
Okay,
that, by the
so
way. I think that's
who
very
made the
interesting.
rule that
I
you
have to look that up.
Who made the rule that you have to be deformed in order to have the freedom to decide what your gender is?
Who made the rule that a human being, can decide what their gender is? Who made that rule?
Nobody said it was a rule.
Okay.
Why can't we have the freedom to decide for ourselves?
Can you decide that you want to be a canine? I mean, I'm not being mockery, and I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just saying.
Can I just ask one question just in the middle here? Because this is
But
a
you're
really good.
reducing humanity to now you can identify as a dog. Like, do you not
Well,
see
okay,
where the
I
issue
want to
with
be.
that is?
I identify I'm
Kenny's
15
point.
years old again. I mean, it's
This is where Kenny's point was, and he said, and I'd like your feedback on this. So Kenny's saying if someone identifies as something, so let's say Kenny says, I want to identify as a penguin, and are you then obliged to identify him as a penguin?
I would love to know why Ed Kenny wants to identify as a penguin, because you realize that somebody that transitions
what if it's personal?
doesn't just wake up one day, but somebody that's
No,
trans doesn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a woman. This is something that they've dealt with their entire life. And before they can actually transition, they have to go through counseling to see if, yes, this is true. They have to live as their identified gender for a certain amount of time, and then they can start hormones. So it's a whole process. It's not something that you just wake up one day and decide, hey, I'm going to be a man today, or hey, I'm going to be a woman
but this
today.
is why we need
This isn't a
conversations
really
like this.
ongoing
This is
thing.
absolutely why we need conversations like this. Me personally, I'm loving this conversation with you because I want to understand further into it what somebody goes through, what are the stages that they go through. Another question. So we were talking like from birth now. So if let's just say I give birth to a son, should I have to not identify him as a male, according to society? If society is now saying, well, it's not fair.
There are a lot of parents out there that are raising their children gender neutral, because if you take, especially in Western culture, like when I was growing up in the 80s and the 90s, there was this very pushed issue of, okay, this stuff is for girls, this stuff is for boys, and it was very gendered, and that was a very capitalistic type of thing, just to make more money. Like if you look at the whole pink and blue assigned to, pink goes to girls, blue to boys. That didn't start until the early 1900s when they started marketing this stuff. So it's just for money, right? So there's parents that are kind of going back to raising kids the way they did before the 1900s, where they didn't enforce gender until the children were old enough to really start showing, what they identified as.
Mindy,
So,
I don't.
I mean, a
let
lot of
me
parents
interrupt you
my
there for a
age are
moment.
like,
What age? Sorry, this is really important. What age is that, and who is determined that age?
if you ask adult trans people, most of them will tell you that they started questioning their gender identity when they were very young, like 4 or 5.
Let me chime in here about something, because you said that people didn't start recognizing gender, however you referred to it, until when?
That when it really got to the whole pink is for blue, pink is for girls, blues for boys.
That's totally inaccurate.
That started.
That's totally inaccurate. Yes, it is. Let me explain to you why. In the period of what's called Jahiliyyah.
I have the data. I actually looked this up before I got on.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you some facts.
Pink for girls, blue for boys was really starting at the early 1900s.
No, I don't doubt the marketing aspect of that, trying to push products based on color and so forth, color imagery.
On gender, yes.
Matter of fact, I've written about that in my book, Consider Islam, about color imagery and how so forth. So I totally understand that. Let me give you an example about something. In the period of Jahiliyyah, which is called the Age of Ignorance, before Islam was, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, peace be upon him, began receiving revelation of the Quran in the period of ignorance. It was commonplace, not only in Arabia, but in many places throughout the world, for people to discard their newborn baby girls simply because they were female. And
okay, but that's an adult issue. That's got nothing to do with what a child identifies as.
No, the point that I'm trying to make to you is that you mentioned, however you explained it, that these adults, because he was asking you about an adult question about him having a baby boy, if he should identify that baby boy as a baby boy, and that you were trying to imply that people have only been doing that somewhat recently, which is totally inaccurate, because people
you misunderstood what I was trying to say.
Okay, well, I just wanted to clarify that people throughout the world were, because their baby girls were female, they were discarding them and sometimes burying them alive simply because they're female. Now, if they were recognizing the possibility, if they were recognizing the possibility that this baby girl might wind up being a boy, then let's give her time, and let's not just assume that she's a girl because she has a vagina and doesn't have testicles.
No, the motivations were completely the reasons why they did it. I didn't even mention, but I'm just saying that's how. Because if you look at, say, for example, if you take a look at pictures from the 1800s of infants, they have pictures of babies in these really long, white, flowing christening gowns, and they dressed baby boys and baby girls in those similar gowns.
Yeah, but that's a matter of outfit. Mindy, that's a matter of technology advancing, more colors being associated.
I'm trying to use that to example that gender is something that society has decided.
That's not a good example.
The gender is not based on
your
biological sex.
You can be assured that from the beginning of the time, people were looking up and saying, "Is it a boy or a girl?" And they know if it was a boy or a girl.
That's biological, though. Looking at the biological characteristics.
Exactly. Exactly.
But gender is how you identify in the world.
No, the gender is what is based on the person's DNA.
No,
that's
biological sex. That's biological sex. You're just factually incorrect with that, Kenny. I'm sorry. You're not going to be able to change my mind. That is incorrect.
Okay. I'm not trying to change your mind. I don't have to make you believe that I'm correct to be correct. But the point that I'm trying to make is that if you are trying to suggest that someone, based on the way they feel, can decide for themselves what they are, despite what their DNA states, that is a illogical conclusion.
What's the harm in that, though?
Because just as the brother mentioned a moment ago, and you see it as a form of mockery and saying, if I say I self-identify as such and such or such and such, it doesn't have to be an animal. It could be a 15-year-old, as I mentioned earlier. Well, my
Well, it could be anything. To be honest,
yeah,
I mean,
it could
if
be any.
we're now,
If
I
I
think
if
we
I
have
just
to.
decide I want to be whatever, or should you accommodate my mental health state and my desire and my, this is how I feel. Well, if I really really feel that way, and I really feel that I am a whatever you name it, should you have to
So you're
accommodate me
prepared. You're
while
prepared to
while you're
live
in your
like a
right mind?
penguin then. So you're prepared to live like a
No.
penguin, move to the
He doesn't
Antarctic
have to
and start
live
eating
Well,
like a
fish.
pet. He
well,
doesn't
there's
have
some
to.
people.
Why
Yeah,
he can just identify as one.
yeah.
Nobody says he has to do. See, and again, this is just an example. And
Well,
again,
then
I'd love.
then we would need to discuss the motivations of why he wants that, just the way a trans person does.
Why
A
does he
trans
need
person
to?
has to go through a.
Okay, so this is the other thing. I want to go through the journey of it. If you can help me with this, because
Mhm.
I
Okay.
really value the things that you're saying. And again, if there's any scientific reports or anything like that, that these things are helpful, because we do want to Kenny's done some research into it. This is something I'm personally eager to research, so we are able to assist
Mhm.
people with these conversations, and I'm grateful to you for coming on and speaking about this. So you said 5 years old, the majority start questioning whether they are or not, or whether they know that they are. So if
They
someone
start
said,
questioning. From
okay,
my okay, I'm not an expert, so I'm not claiming to be an
okay,
expert. I'm just speaking from my experience and the trans people that I have spoken to, that
okay,
it's very common for them to say that they have identified, or they've identified that their gender doesn't match up with what they're being raised as young, or they start questioning as young as like 4 or 5 years old. Now I'm
Does
not saying that that's for the
does
same for
anyone else
everybody,
question?
but
Does anyone else question what they are? Or are they totally just self-identifying? But
what you mean? What's the difference?
meaning when someone else sees that child, is everyone else saying, "Oh, that must be that little boy there happened to see him naked and he has testicles. That little boy, that that's that might be a little girl." Is anyone else saying that?
Why does that
Or
matter
are
when
these
it comes
people?
to your how you self-identify?
okay.
Because
So
see, that's a
How you
okay,
selfish.
feel
That's
what
very.
how you
what
feel
Let me answer
inside
your
and the
question real
way that
quick.
other
Let me
people look at
answer your
you
question real quick.
is
When
different.
someone self-identifies, they're being very
Uh-huh.
selfish, because in that self-identity, they're expecting that other people recognize them as they see
Not
themselves, but
always.
what they see themselves as may not be the reality that we're
You know,
dealing
bro,
with.
you're jumping. You're one sec, because this is really
Yeah.
important. There's some really key
Okay.
development stages that we're just completely mixing. We're jumping from 5 years old and going all the way to adulthood, and there's so much more to
Mhm.
it than this. Okay, so
Mhm.
so I understand what Kenny's trying to say, because a parent isn't suddenly going to start. If I've so for example, I'll play the example. I've got a son. As far as I know, he's a
Mhm.
boy. He's got his
Mhm.
interests. I'm treating him as a boy. I'm calling him he. At 5 years old, he may be having some conflicts or identity issues. Now, again, what Kenny's saying then at that point, me as his father, I'm not calling him a female or identifying him as anything else.
Mhm.
The child itself is having this conflict. And now, so this is really important.
Right,
This is
but
where
you
I'm
also have to understand that at that age, they're not going to be excuse me. They're not going to be sitting down having conversations with themselves being like, "Hey, I'm a boy, but I feel like I'm female."
no,
It's not
that's
going to
fine.
be
I just
that
want one
cut
sec,
and
one sec.
dry. They're just going to
No,
have
no,
like
I know.
questioning, things like that.
One sec. Let's take it back. Because this is such an important topic that I really want to get every
Mhm.
degree and every step in it. So when they are having this question, is that from, am I playing with, I like playing with dolls, but I'm a boy, so they're not letting me play with dolls? Is it that the child just may have an interest in clothing and design of clothing, for example, or
It could
they
be.
are, or they like cooking, but they're like, okay, we're not buying them a kitchen, but they've got an interest, there's male chefs and things of that nature, and that's what they
Mhm.
have an interest in. So does this
It
conflict
absolutely could
come
be.
from what they have access to, or how they're feeling? That's what I want to try and understand also. See, is the
Now, again,
conflict
I'm
just
not a
because I'm playing
doctor,
with?
so I'm
Okay.
not an expert, but it possibly could be. It could be the way that they feel inside, that something just feels they don't um they don't feel like they fit into the way that they've been gendered. I mean, it could be a number of things. Every trans person is going to be different, and what they feel is going to
Well,
be
that's
different. And
interesting.
the
That's
best people to
interesting.
ask that question to would be an actual trans person.
Okay,
No,
so
no,
where,
that's
where,
fine.
where are those feelings generated from? They're mental feelings, correct? I mean, obviously.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
that's fine,
Yeah,
Kenny.
yeah.
This is
Well,
really
hold on
this
one
really
second.
goes
Hold on one
from
second.
desires.
Because this is a mental health issue. This means that this person is feeling the way they feel. It's their thoughts that are making them feel the way that they feel.
But you
They're not
realize
reaching
that
down.
thoughts and things like that are also controlled by hormones, though, right? And hormones can be
Okay, yes, I
produced
do
by other
realize
parts
that.
of the body.
Yes,
Mhm.
I do realize that. But that's
So okay.
that's not really a strong argument about the issue, because the fact of the matter is that just because a person feels a particular way doesn't make that feeling a reality. I could feel like I can bench press 2,000 pounds, but can I really bench press 2,000 pounds? No, I cannot. So in the context of someone saying, I truly feel like I'm a man, but okay, mister, can you go and get that other lady pregnant? No, you cannot. Therefore,
Why does that matter,
your
though?
feeling is not an actual reality.
So you're
So what you're
basing people on, yes, you can have some of that. Sorry, talking to the 6-year-old. Totally lost my train of thought there. The way you self-identify, though, like, what difference does that make? Like, are you trying to reduce us again to just what our reproductive organs can do? Are we just the ability to be able to reproduce?
Just sorry, one second. You just said
Who said
that I'm
that?
just talking to a 6-year-old girl. So just
How do
for
you-
an example, then, how have you come to that conclusion?
Yeah, how do you know?
Because
is
she
that fair?
identifies as female.
How do you know?
How
She
do you know
told you
she's
that?
not having
Because that's what she's
conflict
6.
then?
She's told me.
She said, Mom, I don't want to make it about your
Yeah,
children, but has she come out and said, Mom, I self-identify as a female. I believe that I'm a female.
No, because she doesn't understand what she doesn't understand what self-identify
Yes,
means. But
right.
everything in her behavior and what she's told me so far, she's identifies as female. Now that may
Well,
change down the
that's your
road.
perception.
And
Yeah, that's
now
your perception.
Does she
because
have
that's what she's told me. And when it comes to self-identifying, who else's opinion matters on the way that you as a person self-identify? Yourself.
Does she know that
Okay,
she can
well,
change if you wanted to?
Whoops.
So have you
Sorry,
explained
turn
to
my
your
volume down.
daughter?
What was that?
Have you explained to your daughter at this stage that if she wanted to change, she could do?
If she was questioning it,
No, because she may
we
not
would talk
know.
about
But
it, but
she may
it's
not
not
know.
something I've brought up to her.
Okay.
maybe you should. If you,
This is
if
the
such a
whole
proponent.
thing.
And
This
you
is
think
with
because you don't want to make.
We've discussed. See, I'm trying to give her information that's age appropriate. So we have discussed what LGBTQ people are. We've discussed what trans people are. You know, so
have you given her the option though?
What did you tell her a trans person
because
is?
she hasn't. What?
What did you tell her that a trans person is? What does that even mean?
Somebody who's transitioned or is in the process of transitioning from being
Transitioning from
a
what?
man to a female.
So they used to
Transitioning
be a
from
man.
one sex to the other.
Are they really doing that, Mindy?
Yes.
Are they they're really so the trans means change, right? Are they
It's
really
transitioning
changing
from one to the other? Yes.
Okay, so if they were born and they were actually a female, then why would there need to be a change? If you understand what I'm saying. So you're saying that a person who is
because sometimes we're born with things sometimes we're born with things in our body that are not the way that they're supposed to be. Like, for example, I have really bad eyesight.
Actually changing?
I was born with really bad eyesight, so now I wear glasses so that I can see better. So sometimes we have to fix things that are incorrect about our body.
Still have, Mindy, but you still have bad eyesight because you take those glasses away from you and your sight is still bad.
And I'm blind as a bat, yes.
Yeah, right. So nothing's changed. Right.
But
so
I'm physically changing it on my body. Oh, well, here's a perfect example. I've had a breast reduction.
Okay.
I was born with very large breasts. It caused me some major medical issues. So 3 years ago, I went and I had a major surgery and I had them reduced.
So they didn't just reduce on their own, right?
No, I had medical help, people transition with medical assistance.
Right. So you had to have some type of medical assistance in order for that change to take place. In the same fashion, a person who, so therefore you didn't really change. You didn't metamorphosize into something else without the implementation of medical assistance.
What's the point?
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Somebody
therefore,
who's
therefore
born
you didn't
male
change.
can't just magically transition into a female.
Yeah. So therefore, you by your design, you didn't change. You had a medical procedure that caused the change, just like someone could get an arm amputated or a leg amputated.
Right.
Yes, that changes their physical appearance, but their DNA doesn't change. So,
Right. And I wasn't trying to do, but
no, I know you
people
wasn't.
that are
But
trans understand they can't change their DNA. They're changing their physical
Right.
attributes.
so right. So you're changing the outward appearance. You're not actually changing the DNA.
Right. And
Are you familiar? Are you familiar
What's the
with someone named Buck Angel?
yes, I was the one that showed you
Okay.
the picture of Buck Angel.
Okay, great. So I don't remember that, but you may very well have shown me that, but I don't remember that. But
I posted
nevertheless,
a picture of him.
I've seen a video recently. I'm going to send it to you about Buck Angel, who clearly says, and he looks. I say he. I made the mistake myself. She looks like a man. No doubt about it. But Buck Angel is courageous enough to clearly state that she is biologically a female. She still has a vagina.
There's plenty of
So
trans
therefore,
there's plenty of
no
trans
change.
people out there that say
Yeah. Okay,
again,
that's great.
that's because you're
that's
confusing
facing
gender
reality.
and
No, I'm
biological
not.
biological
No, I'm
sex.
not.
You are.
No, I'm not.
Because Buck
No.
Angel identifies as a male, but admits that yes, I'm still biologically female.
Right. Okay. So what is gender?
Because they're two separate things. Gender is
No.
how you identify socially.
No, that's not.
Yes, it is.
No.
Look up the definition.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, you
No,
can deny it
no,
all you
the
want, but
the
that's just a
definition might
fact,
have
Kenny.
changed in light of current, what's going on in society currently. They may have very well tried to change the definition, but historically, gender is defining if someone is male or female. There's been no compromise about either one of those. So that's not really.
That's not
I
what the
don't know why
definition
people-
of gender is, though.
Sure, it is. What's the definition of it then?
Oh, let me pull it up for you. I had it up
Please,
earlier.
please do that, because what's clearly defined, and there can be no compromise. So you're talking about a word that can be redefined according to how society wants to redefine it. But one thing that cannot be redefined is the genetic makeup, the very DNA that a person is born with. It cannot change. Therefore,
So,
a person
okay,
like
so
Buck
what
Angel,
is-
bear with me 1 second. So a person like Buck Angel, really being honest with themselves, has no choice but to say, I am a female. Buck Angel still has a vagina, even though she has a huge beard, looks very much like a
Yes.
man. Yeah, no, it's she.
yes.
Because,
Now, if you met Buck Angel walking down the street, unless he took his pants off, how, would you know?
no, I wouldn't. I have to admit that I would not. But that's
So then what?
That's
So then
not
what does
without,
it matter?
Well, it matters.
So what does it
because-
matter ultimately?
Well, I'll answer you and I'll tell you. Well, it matters because this whole idea of change didn't happen just because Buck Angel felt a certain way. What happened was Buck Angel felt a certain way and had to go and get medical assistance, and Don inevitably, and I don't mean to say this offensively, but I don't know any other way to put it, in that Buck Angel donned a medical costume and a physical costume based on mutilation and removal of the breast entirely, not just a reduction, but total removal, and a medical costume in the form of testosterone to allow facial hair to begin to grow and testosterone levels to increase, mass to be able to
Okay,
increase
but
in
what
the
does
muscles.
that matter
But
to
a
you
person-
ultimately, Kenny?
What do you mean? What does it matter to me?
At the end of the day,
Why are you
if
making it
somebody
personal?
has made
Why are you talking
well,
about
because
it?
I'm genuinely curious because
Okay,
somebody
I'm
that
curious
has
too. I'm curious about why are you
okay,
asking
but let me ask the
why I'm
question
concerned about it. I'm concerned about it because I'm
because you're the one that's taught.
Yeah, I'll tell you why. I have no problem telling you why I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned about it because I believe that the creation of my creator is perfect, meaning that he designed a person to be exactly what he intended for them to be, and it is a test to that individual. And that doesn't. And I'm going to bring up hermaphrodites just for a moment. A person who's born with a physical deformity of any kind A person is born with one arm or 6 fingers or 4 fingers or whatever the deformity might be. That person is being tested by the design that Allah chose for them to have based on his knowledge of the circumstances of that individual and the people that were going to come in contact with that individual. Were all tested by those situations. Now, with that being said, my concern about it is the truth of our Creator being somehow mocked and undermined by people, human beings that are fallible, who don't know what they want for themselves half the time, especially in this particular community where you've already admitted and we've discussed that a lot of these people have mental health issues to the point that they commit suicide, very high levels rates of suicide.
You realize why they commit suicide.
Hold on
though.
1 second. And also they want to so-called transition, and then they regret it. They want to go back to what they were because they're unhappy. So this person is fickle in their thinking, and this is a sign of, again, of a mental health problem. And
No, go play upstairs.
but we're supposed to accommodate that by saying, that person can just choose to be whatever they want to be, and we have to compromise our own intellect and say, okay, because Buck Angel wants to call himself a dude, I'm going to refer to him as bro and so forth. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to call Buck Angel.
So if Buck,
I'll do it
okay,
respectfully. Yeah.
So if somebody walks up to you and you can't tell the difference about what's in their pants and what biological sex they are, what difference does it make? How they identify?
In that situation, that doesn't matter. That in that particular scenario doesn't matter, because all I know is that this person looks the way they look. But see, that's a form of deception, though, Mindy, and that's the problem. In that this person wasn't born looking that way. That person didn't.
But what does that matter to you, though? That's the problem.
Listen, you just asked
if
me
they
a
don't
question
practice,
about,
if they don't practice your religion, what does it matter?
What my religion has nothing to do with this.
It absolutely does, because you're saying that it's
no, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No,
it absolutely
I'm
does.
talking about the
Because you're saying
specific
that you have
scenario.
a creator, and
Listen,
you
the
believe that they're being
specific scenario
deceptive
you
because
just
they're
asked me
changing what
about.
they're creating.
Hold on. The specific scenario you just asked me about has nothing to do with my religion. And let me explain why. Because in that
But you're
situation,
bringing it up.
No, you brought up my religion.
You brought up your creator.
No, hold on. I'm talking about that specific scenario that you just asked me about. If someone like Buck Angel comes up to me and looks every bit of a man, okay, I have been duped by Buck Angel because I've been fed a lie, because Buck Angel really knows that Buck Angel, even though she's willing to open up and say that she's biologically a female, that's, and I'm very much commend her for doing so, because that's a very courageous thing to do in light of, the matter of fact, she gets attacked for doing that by that community. Okay. So with that being said, at the same time, if Buck Angel isn't the type of person, doesn't have the type of character to say that, listen, my name's Buck Angel, I know I look like a man, but I am every bit, DNA wise, I am actual female, and I still have a vagina and so forth. For one, I don't expect anyone up I don't have the expectation for someone to come up and tell me those intimate details about themselves first and foremost. But if that person keeps presenting themselves to me as a male, well, whether I know it or not, that person is feeding me and the rest of society a lie, in that
that's your opinion, though.
Hold on.
That's your opinion, though.
Right. Yes, because you asked me what my opinion was. So that's why I'm giving you my opinion. So
right.
You asked me,
and the reason why I asked you that, though, there's a specific reason why I asked about your opinion, though, is because why should your opinion dictate what somebody or how somebody else lives their life?
For one, because
that's what you're saying.
No, how is my opinion of that situation dictating what that person's doing? I'm not telling that person what to do. I'm telling you, in that situation,
you're saying that they're a liar, that they're deceiving you.
Well, listen, Mindy,
so if you're going to accuse somebody of being a liar,
okay, let's be intellectually honest with ourselves. Okay, if I meet Buck Angel, if I met Buck Angel in person and I didn't know Buck Angel was biologically admitted a female, okay, but Buck Angel is associated with me to a point that I truly believed this whole time that Buck Angel was a man, despite the fact that Buck Angel knows that she's a female biologically, and as far as DNA goes, then isn't that unfair to me in regards to
No, because it's none of your business.
Okay, but that's still a deception. That's still a lie.
No, it's not. It's none of your business.
Okay, well,
How can somebody lie to you about something that's none of their business?
Let's change the scenario. Let's say a person who looks 100% female, and there are males out there that look very much a female, and that person has come, and I take interest in this individual, and I establish a relationship with this individual. This person has now gone through the process.
Scenario.
Hold on, no, it's still the same lie though. Okay, so I establish a relationship with this individual. This individual has manufactured themselves through surgery, some type of a vagina, and removed their testicles and so forth, and has had breast implants and looks every bit a woman, and has established a relationship with me now. And I fully was innocent of the fact that I thought this was truly a woman this whole time. And
you realize that most
deceived.
trans people will be upfront about them being trans if they're getting into a romantic
Listen,
relationship.
No, I don't
with
know
people.
that.
So you would know.
That. I think you. No, I don't know that. Neither do you. To be honest, you can't say what most people do. No, that's a blanket
trans
statement.
People that I know,
Mindy,
most trans people that I know,
most people that you know, and you have no way to justify that. I doubt you've asked all of them if how do they answer those questions. You're making a blanket.
It's actually a very popular conversation, honestly.
Well,
because
that's a blanket
the reason why I say that is because there is a very big danger.
Let's not get off of it for a second. There,
I'm trying to explain my answer.
I know, but you're making a blanket generalization. I'm talking about a specific scenario here, and I'm trying to address.
I know, and I have an answer for that specific scenario, but you're not allowing me to give it an answer.
But I want to establish. I want to establish the fact that this scenario and the scenario with Buck Angel, is still the same deception being perpetuated. Because yes, it is. Because
a stranger on the street that appears a certain way that you're not getting into a romantic relationship does not owe you that information, whereas somebody that you're getting involved romantically with does. They're two different, completely separate scenarios.
That's slightly different, but it's still the same lie being perpetuated, because society is seeing this individual and is clueless.
So are you going to ask everyone to pull down their pants and show you what they have so you know whether or not they're lying?
What makes you think that I would do that? Why would that question even come to you?
Because obviously somebody presenting as male that is biologically female is very important to you, enough to say that they're deceptive and they're lying to me. So are you going to ask everybody?
Okay. So which is more accurate? Which is more accurate, Mindy? Which is more accurate? Is the DNA lying, or is the mutilated body that's now donned a costume, is it lying? Which one?
I don't think either of them is lying, because lying is a human construct of somebody being deceptive. I don't believe that lying has anything to do with this.
See, now you're juggling right here, because
there
can only be one truth. Do you believe that truth is uncompromising, that there's only one truth? Or do you believe that truth is adjustable?
We're using it. Depends on the context.
I'm talking about truth period, over any topic, anything.
The way somebody, you can't apply truth to the way somebody self-identifies.
I'm not talking about perceptions of truth. I'm talking about is truth, meaning, let's say in this scenario, DNA. The DNA says that Buck Angel is a female. Is that DNA lying?
No, because DNA doesn't lie. But yes, there's
biologically so therefore the
female,
DNA hasn't been manipulated. Right, the DNA hasn't been manipulated, but Buck Angel's physical external
their
appearance,
gender, they identify as male. Yes.
Okay, so the physical appearance has been manipulated by mutilation.
They've changed it donning, because they identify as a different gender. Yes.
Okay, but the body itself.
This is why I'm trying to stress that gender and biological sex are two different things. That you keep lumping them together.
Okay, well that's great, because they are the same thing.
They're not.
So the body itself, of Buck Angel didn't just metamorphosize into something different. You agree?
Yes, but that's got nothing to do with this.
No, because it has everything to do with it.
It's irrelevant.
Because the person,
it's absolutely irrelevant.
No, it's not irrelevant, Mindy. It's only
is,
irrelevant
absolutely.
because no,
How
it's
so
only relevant
if
because
somebody was born a male and magically woke up a female the next day, that would be more acceptable to you because it was magic? Like what relevance does being able to
Mindy, that has
metamorphosize have to
that's
do with the
not
argument?
that's not a reality even any more than a
So
person
then why are you trying to use it
metamorphosizing.
as an argument?
What I'm telling you is that so basically you're agreeing with me by asking me that question, in that a person cannot, their physical body itself, just like their DNA, the what comprises that
They
person of
can't.
who they are. Hold on, their physical body as well as their DNA, which is actual part of their physical body, their physical makeup. It does not just alter and change. It does not develop into something else. You agree? I mean, they can't just
Again,
grow.
it's
I can't
irrelevant.
just sit here. I can gain weight, but I can't just grow, double D breasts.
I have the
can't grow a
perfect I
vagina.
have the absolute perfect example for you. And this is a medical condition, and it examples of what I'm trying to explain. There is a condition out there. So do you know that when the conception happens, and there's the chromosomes decide whether it's male, female, whatever, that all fetus or all embryos start developing as female until the hormone
Yes.
kicks in if it's male, right? So then
No,
the baby starts
the Quran-
developing as
the
male.
Quran speaks about
That
this,
happens
alhamdulillah.
about.
Did
This
you know the
happens
Quran
at
speaks
about
about this?
between. Can I explain the
Yeah,
condition?
but I just want to make the
So
point to
this
you
start
that
this
the Quran
starts.
speaks about this. Go ahead.
I don't care about the Quran. So at about 7 weeks, the hormone that makes the fetus male kicks in at about between 7 to 12 weeks. I can't remember 100% what it is. But there is a condition where that hormone does not kick in. So the fetus is biologically male, but because that hormone isn't activated, that the body continues to develop as completely female. So when that child is born, they present as female. They have female outwardly, they have a vagina, they develop breasts, everything, right? Because our bodies are genetically, we start off as female. So even though that person's biological sex based on chromosome is male, their body developed female because that hormone didn't kick in. So there's instances like that where, I mean, again, it's a deformity. It's the body's not developing correctly, but
you're conflating
the physical body. But I'm trying to example that.
No, that's not a good example, Mindy, and I'll tell you why. Because you're conflating what happens in the womb, the development and the changes in the womb. For one, you made a mistake. No one starts out as a female. They start out as
they all start out as
neutral.
Female. Like this is just
don't.
basic
No, they don't
biology
start
101 from high school.
They don't start out
Yes,
as
they do.
no, they don't.
Yes, they do. Why do you think you have
they
nipples?
don't. They start out as
Why do you think you have nipples?
Mindy, they start out as a mass of nothing. Of just a blood clot that extends to a substance, a figure, and so there's no gender associated with that. So no one starts out as a female.
That's why all humans have nipples, because we genetically start out as female.
Yeah,
we develop
because
female.
the law designed male and female to have nipples. We all have nipples because Allah deemed it necessary.
That's not what
for
the
males
science
and
says,
females
though,
to have
Kenny.
nipples. Okay, well, the science says that the people don't start out as any particular gender initially. That's the fact. Nevertheless, but that's a bad scenario, a bad example, because you're talking about a development and a change in the womb to which by the time that 9-month period is over with, when that child is born, the DNA is going to say this is a male or a female. But from that point, once that body exits the womb, that body begins to grow and develop and change, but it doesn't. It never changes from what it was to something different, or what it is rather to something different. Meaning that body doesn't just by itself just start changing and suddenly the penis.
But why
and
is that relevant to the argument?
Well, because the testicles and the penis don't just suddenly go away in place of a vagina. So therefore, no.
So you're again reducing us to our sexual organs.
No, I don't know why you keep saying that. I haven't reduced anyone to anything. We're very complex
because you're
individuals.
saying
No, I don't know why you keep saying that, because we're comprised of a
Because you're
soul,
so
a
fixated on it.
conscience.
That's why.
No, I'm not. No, I'm
Because
not.
you think that
We're
the
talking.
body can't change magically
No,
on
I
its
don't know.
own.
Yeah, but
That
I don't know
somehow
why you keep
justifies
saying
that people
you.
shouldn't
But
transition.
Mindy, listen. I don't know why you keep saying that I'm reducing people to what they are physically.
Because
I'm
that's
not
what
at
you
all.
are. Because we're more than
No,
what's
as
in
a
our
Muslim,
pants.
listen. When I pray, I don't know if you heard me talking about prayer before, but when I talk about prayer, about the importance of us submitting to Allah, I say we go to prayer in our mind, our body, and our spirit. So we're comprised of much more than just our physical body. That's so. I don't know why you keep saying that. You should never say that to me in particular, because it doesn't make sense, because that's not what I'm doing. What I'm telling you is that you've agreed that the DNA never changes, and the
Mhm.
body itself will never change into a different gender, a different,
So,
the
but
DNA
again, I
will
don't
never
understand the
change,
relevance of that argument.
because it will never change without outside help in the form of
So,
donning some
what's
type of
wrong with getting
medical
outside help?
costume or physical costume, because it's
What's wrong with
unnatural.
getting outside help?
Do you agree it's
So,
unnatural?
so you,
Is it is
so
it
we're gonna, so
unnatural?
any medical so why is transitioning unnatural, but any other medical
Okay, there's no
intervention is not
transition. There's a
unnatural?
mutilation. So let's take Buck Angel again for a moment. Had her breast removed. That
You
is
didn't
a
answer my question though. Why
uh,
is transitioning unnatural, but any other medical intervention is not?
okay. I did answer you, because I said there's no such thing. There's no transition made. I did answer you. You just didn't catch it. There is no transition.
Okay, so what? Okay, so I will ask the question then that better suits you.
Okay. Go
Why
ahead.
is somebody having medical intervention to change their gender, as opposed to somebody getting medical intervention for something else, like say for me having my breast reduced? Was that unnatural?
Okay. Okay. Well, you've conflated two different issues here. For one,
No,
you
I'm
having
just
your
trying
breast
to get
reduced.
basic.
Okay. Well, I'm
Yeah, was
giving you a
that
good answer.
unnatural?
No, I'm
Was
gonna
that
give you a good
unnatural?
answer for it. For one, you've conflated what you've just said here. You've mashed them together. They don't work, because a person's uh, genetic makeup never changes. Their physical appearance can change, just like
Was
someone
me getting
getting
my
an arm or a
breasts
leg.
reduced unnatural?
Okay, is it natural? Is it natural for me to get in a car accident and my arm get chopped off?
Is it natural for me to have medical intervention to have my breasts reduced? Yes or no?
Is it? No, it's not natural.
Okay, so then why is it okay that I had my
Any
breasts
more than
reduced
me.
as opposed to somebody having a mastectomy?
Okay, any more than me having my arm removed because of it, right?
Okay, so am I lying
That's
to you then?
unnatural,
Okay, so
right?
it's unnatural that I had my breasts reduced. Is it okay, in your opinion, that I had my breasts reduced?
Mindy, I don't care if you had your breath. If you needed to have that
So then
done
why do you care if
because
somebody else had a mastectomy because they now identify as female? Like, why do you not care about my procedure, but you care about somebody else's procedure?
you're not trying to claim that you're something that you're not. I mean, this is real simple. You're not claiming I'm
But if you
Mindy. I
can't
had a
tell,
breast
what difference does
reduction
it make?
and I'm less of a woman because I had a breast reduction. You're not claiming that you're less of a
But
woman. And so a
but
person who had
you're trying
no,
to
I'm not.
imply that somebody that's
No,
go ahead.
no, I'm not implying anything. What I'm telling you is that just as you're not less of a woman because you had a partial breast removal, Buck Angel is not less of a woman because she had a total breast removal. There's no change. You had a medical procedure that took place that altered the
Mhm,
physical appearance of your body, but the body
mhm.
itself did not metamorphosize, and therefore there is no such thing as a transgender. The gender never alters and changes. It doesn't metamorphosize. That's unnatural. That would be unnatural. I mean, if it did it naturally, that'd be one thing. If a person legitimately was born with testicles and then suddenly in their life at some point things began to alter and change, and now they've developed the features of a woman, that's different. But when you have to go through a medical operation and take medicine in order to make these things happen, those things are unnatural, and that thing is a lie. That's a lie.
So ultimately, what would you have happen, Kenny? Would you
What do you mean?
take the people's freedom? Well, okay, so in arguing all of this and how you disagree with it and how you think they're lying and how you're misgendering everyone, what do you want to be the outcome? Do you want to be able to take away the ability for everybody to transition that wants to? Do you want to take that freedom away from them? Like, what is
do you mean
it? What is your
transition?
goal in that?
For
What
one,
is
they-
your
they've
goal?
Never transitioned. There's no transition made.
Okay.
No.
What is your
There's
goal
no
in arguing
transition
against
means to
this?
change. The
I
transition
understand what
means
you're trying to
change.
get at, but answer my question, please. What is your ultimate goal? Do you want to take the freedom away from people that identify as transgender to
No,
have
what
the
I want
ability
to
to
ensure,
have these
no,
medical
I don't,
procedures?
no, I really don't care what they do. Outside of, I don't expect that they should expect that the rest of society goes in line with that deception and that falsehood and that
So
impossibility.
you're fighting
I
against
don't.
you're fighting
Yeah.
against the inconvenience of having to use pronouns when you address someone.
I haven't talked about pronouns, but what I'm fighting
Well,
against
that's
is
what
the
other
idea.
what other
Hold on.
effect
I'm
does it
fighting
have on
against.
you?
I'm fighting against someone else's mental health oppressing my logic and reason, or the logic and reason of other people that say that
what way?
person with that say that person with testicles there, that's a little boy, and that's a male, and just because this other group or that group or this group or that person, that individual wants me to refer to that little boy or any other people, not just for myself, anyone wants anyone else to refer to that child or that
So
human being, that
you're
adult.
upset about the
Hold on.
inconvenience of having to use preferred
No, I'm-
pronouns, because ultimately that's
no.
all it is.
So
That's
you
all
want
that
to answer
affects
for
you.
me, or would you like for me to answer?
Well, I'm trying
I mean,
to
you go ahead.
determine
You answer for
what
me. You
exactly
tell
is
me.
your issue.
Okay, why are you asking me what my issue is, but you're not allowing me to expound upon it?
Because you keep repeating the same thing, that you don't want people to
No,
lie to you, because you don't want
no,
you don't want to have to refer to them as their preferred pronouns. I haven't heard any other effect on you in your personal life that it has on you other than having to use the proper pronouns.
So what does that matter to you? Let me finish expounding upon my answer and giving you my answer. That way you'll fully understand what it is that I'm concerned about. How about that?
Mhm.
Okay. So what I'm concerned about, once again, is the idea that someone who doesn't actually change into anything different genetically and as far as DNA and all that goes. Yes, their physical appearance is altered through mutilation or implants or through medical costuming, but they themselves never actually change. Okay, they don't change into anything different. But to suggest and expect that society should look upon this person, Mike, who was in the locker room, who had testicles when he was 17, 18 years old playing football, decides that he's Michelle, and that people who played football with him, by example, should and are expected to call Mike Michelle, when they know good and well that Mike was every bit the man that his body said that he was. But now we've got to be decent people. We have to call Mike Michelle, and if we don't call Mike Michelle, now we're bad people. What about the rights of people to say, no, I don't accept that Mike can change into Michelle, because I've seen Mike naked, and Mike is a man. He's a boy. He's a male. Oh, he's not? Well, let's go get him a DNA test.
What is the
Let's
huge
go get him
inconvenience of using somebody's different name?
Let's go get him a DNA
What's the huge
test.
inconvenience
We're
of
not talking
using
about just
somebody's
changing his
preferred
name now,
name?
are we? We're not just talking
But that's
about
all
changing
you
his name.
as a non-trans person have to do, is just have the decency to refer to them as their name, their chosen name, and their pronouns. What other effect does it have on you, Kenny?
So have the decency, inevitably what you're saying, it sounds like, I don't want to speak for you, but have the decency to accept an impossibility as though it's true.
If somebody walks up to me and says, "Hey, hi, this is my name, these are my pronouns," why is it such a big deal for me to be like,
These
"Okay,
are my
that's
pronouns"?
fine," and I'll
Has
refer to
anyone
you?
ever walked up
Yeah,
to you and say, "Hi, my name is such and such. These are my pronouns"? Have they ever done that?
Yes.
In the history of your life, has anyone ever done that?
Yes. I have.
Really?
My husband's cousin. Yes, my husband's cousin is transitioned since
And
we've
walked
been
up and
together.
said, when did that
This
happen?
is
In
my
the last
this
year
is
or
my
two?
new name, and these are my pronouns.
This is my new name, and these are my pronouns.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
did you grow up with that?
because she
With that happening?
transitioned.
Did you grow up with
Did
that
I grow
happening,
up
or
to it? No,
is that
because
something that
it
happened?
didn't happen.
That probably happened in the last couple of years, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I knew so.
What
Yeah.
difference does that
Quick-
make?
Quick
Because
question.
you've lived the
Oh.
vast majority of your life with this never being an issue, right?
Because most trans people had to hide in the closet because of they were
Mhm.
afraid of coming out because of people like you with the attitude like you have.
What
No,
what
no, one second, wait.
what have I done against those people, Mindy?
This is the problem. This is
So
It's-
hold on,
it's-
let me clarify. What have I done against those people, Mindy?
You have flat out misgendered people.
I've misgendered
In
them,
this
so
stream
I've spoken
alone,
against their DNA.
Yes. You've
Well, can we just one
So,
step back,
so,
guys?
so Buck, hold
Okay,
on. So,
let's-
so hold on one second.
no,
So
it's
Buck
just
Angel
you
can
just
say,
you just
hold
don't
on one second.
understand the difference
Hold
between
on
the
one
two.
second.
So
Hold on
friendly
one
Muslim,
second.
if
So
you want
Buck
to ask
Angel,
me a question,
hold on.
no, Kenny,
Min-
I
I'm
just
gonna-
want
Mindy,
to. I want
this
I'm
is
gonna be
just,
done
this
with
is just
this
a
because
follow-up question.
I'm just done.
So I know you are because you can't handle this discussion.
No.
No,
one
because
sec,
I
one sec.
can't.
No, you
I
can't.
can't have a
Because let me
discussion
just ask
with
you a
you if
question.
you just
So
don't
Buck
understand
Angel,
the basic facts. So
oh,
that's
I don't
fine.
understand it. So look at the facts. So Buck Angel can say that I am genetically I am a female. My DNA says that I am a female. And Kenny Bomer says, I agree. Buck Angel is a female, but Kenny Bomer is the one in the wrong.
Yes,
No,
Is
one
that what you're
second.
telling me?
because
Well,
Buck
one
Angel
second.
identifies as male.
Okay, so
So
you hear what
friendly
he just said.
Muslim, go
Buck
ahead.
Angel,
I answered your question, Kenny. I answered your question.
So Buck Angel
I
can
answered
say
your
that Buck
question.
Angel
Go
is a
ahead.
female.
If you're not going to let
Buck
friendly
Angel-
Muslim ask the question, then I'm just.
Okay,
it's
now
gonna
I'm
be
gonna
time
let
for me
him.
to be
I
done.
just want to clarify. So Buck Angel can say that
Kenny, I've asked very nicely. Okay, I'm just.
Mindy, listen.
I'm
listen.
done.
I just
I
want to
will
clarify
answer
this
friendly
point.
Muslim's question.
I want to clarify
and then
this
I'll
point
move
for the
on. No,
listeners. I want to
you've
clarify this
repeated
point for the
yourself way
listeners.
too many times, and I don't want to
Okay, I
turn.
want to
I don't want
clarify
this to turn
myself.
into a scream. No, I don't want to
Okay,
turn
well-
this into a screaming match. So I'm going to answer friendly Muslim's question, and then I'll be
Okay.
done.
Well, Friendly Muslim's not going to ask you a question right now because I'm the
Okay.
host
Well,
of this
then
show.
I'll have to be
so-
on my way.
Okay. Well,
Have a
let
great
me
night,
just
Kenny.
clarify.
Thank you
So
for having
let's
me. I
clarify
appreciate it.
Okay, that's cowardly. But nevertheless, let's clarify. So she basically said that Buck
Oh.
Angel can say that I am genetically a female based on my DNA. My DNA is a female. But when Kenny Bomer looks at Buck Angel and says Buck Angel is a female,
But that's the problem, brother. I wanted to just ask her whether you had the right to not. Uh, see, this is the problem. This is where you guys were sort of missing each other. I just wanted
I'm
to
not
ask her
missing
the question.
anything.
No, just this is where there was a conflict, and so you. This is where I really wanted to understand was where you want to identify the person as a man, because you know that person as a man, for example, and then the other person. Where does each individual's rights sort of meet and not meet? So then, again, this is something I want to ask her in terms of.
That's the same. It's basically the same question that I was asking and
No,
trying
but-
to say, and saying that Buck Angel is speaking about herself, saying, "I am biologically and genetically, my DNA says that I am indeed, I am a 100%. I am a female. You know, my DNA is 100% female." Okay, so if I agree and say yes, despite what Buck Angel looks like a man, but Buck Angel is a female, then I'm somehow doing someone a disservice, or I've
No,
oppressed
that's what I
someone?
wanted to ask her. Do you have the right to feel that
Yeah.
way? That's what
Yeah,
I was
my
trying
goodness,
to ask.
yeah, it's like an
And-
oppression. It's a reverse oppression.
I know,
It's
but
like
we
saying-
don't get to ask that question because we don't get to ask that question.
Yeah.
So
How dare you ask that question? As a matter of fact,
no, but
How-
you should ask the question. This
Yeah.
is where we have to have some dialogue. Where if we ask her that question, then we can see both sides of the thing. Where who is oppressing who, and what where again there were things that we could have that middle line question was where I wanted to just interject and just find out.
well, the thing
On
is,
which
she's
side
very
of the-
emotional. She got her husband over there running his mouth in the chat as well.
Oh,
But
is that
nevertheless,
Mr.
you know, these people get emotional because their arguments are crumbling, and that's just the reality. I mean, you're frustrated. I'm not frustrated at all, as a matter of
I
fact.
know, but
I just wanted to clarify and say you're telling me that Buck Angel can say the same thing that I'm saying, but I'm wrong.
You may
for-
not be
for-
wrong. This is the whole thing.
No, I'm not.
You-
I'm
you-
not talking about you.
yeah,
I'm
no,
talking
no,
about-
but this is what
yeah.
I know, but this is where we need to take a step back and also ask them if I feel like this, and I have a conversation with someone. See, so I want to give you an example. So someone they are identifying as a woman, but you know that they are genetically a male, right? And you come across this person and you say, listen, I don't feel comfortable addressing you as a woman because genetically I know you are a man.
Yeah, where's
And
my
that
rights
person,
coming?
yeah, no, exactly. That's what.
Yeah.
Wait 1 second. Hold it back. So now, if you said that again, but that person then, and again, this is where I want to find her side of things. That where would you be wrong in saying that, or would you not be wrong in saying that?
No, her follow up is going to be, what does it matter to you? It's like,
No,
what do
but
you
that's
mean,
not
what
the
does it matter
point.
to
That's
me?
not the point. This is the
Yeah.
whole thing. This is where we need to
Yeah.
further the
Well,
argument.
she knows what the reality of it is. That's why she's asking, what does it matter to you? And I'm trying to explain to her that it's a defense against being oppressed myself and my own logic and reason. And you're telling me that I know I went to high school with Mike, and I know Mike has testicles and all that, but now you expect me to call Mike a female when I know Mike is not a female. Where are my rights in this? That's why it matters, because I don't want other people have to suffer from that either, and to have to be forced by society's lie and deception to call someone something that DNA proves that they're not. If these people died, if Buck Angel died, the person we've been talking about, if Buck Angel dies, Buck Angel says this in the interview that I'm going to post the link for that, as a matter of fact, but says that if she died and they go back and look her, do her DNA years later, they're going to determine that this was a female. No doubt, no question about it. It doesn't matter what cosmetic costume, what medical costume, what chopping and mutilation took place. Buck Angel is a female, and that's all there is to it. Buck Angel with that big beard and the tattoos and looking like a man with the, every bit of a man, can still get pregnant to this day. Can still get pregnant. Buck Angel is a female. And okay, well, so who gets pregnant in this world? Do males get pregnant or do females? Well, my answer is females get pregnant. Am I wrong for saying females get pregnant? Okay, so am I wrong for concluding based on the fact that females get pregnant and Buck Angel admits that she is not still, but has always been 100% female? Then am I wrong for deducing the fact that Buck Angel is a female? Of course not. But yes, I am, because society is molding and shaping people's minds in order to create an illusion and an imaginary situation that cannot be. And it's an assault against truth, and it's an assault against people's logic and reason and common sense. It's an assault against our Creator Himself. And that's what gets me is that the people are so unwilling to be simply be reasonable. Let's look at the basics.
Maybe there are
and be
some that
reasonable.
are also, and so again, this is where we need further discussion. And I look forward to your next stream where you touch more deeply onto the
Well,
subject.
see, we're dealing with this. What aggravates me, it's not so much the people themselves. Those people, they're suffering from a mental health issue, and they need to be dealt with patiently. And that's different. But then when you have other people who are supporting this idea because they want to get a pat on the back from their particular community, or because they are atheists and they don't believe in a creator to begin with, and the whole idea undermines the creator, and it makes it look like the creator is non-existent, that the human being has the capacity to be self-sufficient and self-identify as anything they want to be. But wait a minute, if I say I want to self-identify as a penguin or an octopus, then that doesn't count. But wait a minute, what about my feelings?
Well, this
What
is where
about-
we've got to have
you know,
continued talks about these things, because again, if I want to be identified as a Muslim, for example, and someone called me a Christian, would that be right? Again, there are further there's a lot more discussions and knowledge that we should be in pursuit of, and that's fine. And again, I'm sure on your next stream you'll go further into it so we can catch up in a way in terms of the study and the knowledge that you have gained during studying this book, this topic, because you've dedicated time in gaining more knowledge in it. And again, I'm going to take away from this. I'm going to do some study and some research in it, and Miss Avon, nice lady Avon. Is the lady Avon? Yeah, well, nice meeting you. And
Well,
you know,
it'd be quite remarkable if the human being had the ability to say, you know, I've been thinking all my life that I'm a man, but you know, I've been deciding that I'm not happy as a man and I want to change into a woman, and that reality take place just because the human being decides one day that even if it's over a period of time, I'm not saying just suddenly decides it. It doesn't matter how long. The fact of the matter is that the idea that someone can instantly decide, or a slow progression, you know, through the process of the decision making process, they decide that I want to be a different gender than I have been, and voila, the change is here. I am. Here's the change, without going to the doctor and breaking out the scalpel, or going to get some silicone breast implants and getting more, break out the scalpel and stuff this in here and stuff that in there, and let me take this medication, this cosmetic costume, this medical costume. uh, if person could do that without the scalpel and without the silicone and without the medication, we'd have that'd be a different ball game. But that's not the reality that we're dealing with. We're dealing with unhappy people who are, trying to find a way to be happy, and they think that altering their circumstances is going to somehow change that. And because sometimes they don't have the ability to change, they can't change who their family is, and they can't change their 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 race and so forth. uh, what's the alternative? Then let me tattoo myself, and let me get these big loops in my ears, and let me start piercing this and piercing that, and let me alter the way I look, because I just, I want different attention for different things. And it's all signs of unhappiness. And instead of treating the mental health issue and saying, all right, let's get some counseling, instead of you paying all that large money for all these medical surgeries, how about you pay for the mental health service instead, and let's work through this systematically and find out what this issue is, and say, do you really think that you're something different? It could be that sometimes they do, but that's a deeper rooted, mental health issue. So should the person who's not suffering from the mental health issue just give in to the person who is, and accept the sayings or the desires of someone who's mentally unstable? It's like saying, just I mean, the scenario I mentioned earlier, that about the person who thinks they have an imaginary friend. Now you're just going to accept that they really have an imaginary friend, even though you know that they don't really have one, but you have to pretend, and you're wrong if you don't. Nonsense, man. Nonsense. No way. No way. I'm not going to do that today, tomorrow, yesterday. I'm never going to do that. I cannot do that. And it's not. This is not an attack against those people suffering through the mental health issue. It's an aggravation about the people who are in their right mind, or they're supposed to be in their right mind, but they have been bamboozled by Satan himself, for one, denying the existence of a creator, and then, bamboozled by the idea that the human being can change and metamorphosize into something that DNA proves that they haven't changed into at all. It's a lie. So that's why I ask her, which is the lie? The DNA of Buck Angel or the physical body of Buck Angel? Well, neither one. Well, which one's been altered and changed? The body. How was it altered and changed? Did it do it by itself? No. Scalpel, testosterone, medication, unnatural. well, you lose. You lose today, to lose on the day of judgment, because that is an absolute lie. That is an absolute lie, and it's a lie from Satan himself. And we shouldn't have to compromise our integrities, and our common sense and our intellect. Doesn't matter how, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to say that little boy has balls and that little boy is a male. Period. It doesn't take much to come to that conclusion.
Yeah,
You
no,
don't have
that's
to
why I
do-
wanted to develop the discussion with her at sort of age 5, 6, 7. If society and you've got if I've got a son and they are a son, I'm treating them like a son, then where is this altered change of state coming from? And then she mentioned, it could be the toys that they're playing with and things like that. And then, medically, again, we talk about imbalances. So again, there's further conversations to have. It's late here, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna leave you on that note, my brother. Good, exchanging knowledge and looking into this further and continue to do so. And we continue to have these discussions.
All right, brother. Thank you for coming, and alhamdulillah, may Allah guide us and open our minds and our hearts and so forth to being more knowledgeable and compassionate and so forth, and all the things that we need to be in dealing with these different tests and trials that we're facing. And may it protect us from the evil whisperings of the shaitan who are trying to lead us astray and leading society astray. Allah says clearly in the Quran that as for those who disbelieve, it matters not if you warn them or do not warn them. They will not believe. Allah set a seal over their hearts and over their hearing, over their eyes is a veil. Woe to them for the penalty that they bring upon themselves. So may Allah save us from the deceptions of the shaitan and the whisperings, and may he have mercy on each and every one of us on the day of judgment. So thank you for coming, brother, and I look forward to talking to you again, inshallah. And may Allah bless you and your family, and Ramadan Mubarak. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Ameen. Jazakallah, brother. Thank you so much.
Brother. All right, so assalamu alaikum to everyone in the chat. Thank you for listening and watching. I'm not trying to offend anyone, but I have a right to present how I think and how I feel. If someone else can change, choose to expect people to accept them for based on how they feel or how they identify. Well, I feel and I identify as someone who does not accept the idea that someone can change, and obviously if their DNA doesn't change, how do they change at all without outside help? They didn't. They're still who they were born to be, whether or not they accept that or not. So may Allah have mercy on each and every one of us and forgive me for any mistakes that I've made or anything that I've done that's offensive, or if I've committed any sins during the course of these discussions. I do bear witness that there's no God other than Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is the final servant and the seal of all prophets. I'm going to be having some other shows about the tall poppy syndrome and this whole gender neutral issue. We're going to be discussing that again in a few days. I'm not sure exactly when, but be on the lookout for those shows, inshallah. Ramadan Mubarak to all the Muslims out there. May Allah accept your fast and your prayers. And I'll leave you by saying, Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen.